What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the Why Not podcast, and I am your host, Justin Bricker. Today's episode is definitely an eye-opening one for me. Today's guests were a training partner of mine, Benito, and somebody we're going to go ahead and just call Pedro for legality's sake. Pedro and Benito are two Venezuelan immigrants who grew up in the same town, went to the same school, moved here to St. Charles, and ended up going to the same college together, and were both brought together by jiu-jitsu. They didn't know each other. They had some brief encounters as children, but other than that, outside of jiu-jitsu, they had no real connection. And to me, that's just freaking beautiful. That two people can come from all the way across the side of the world and be brought together by one common interest. But that's not the basis of the podcast. Today's podcast is about Venezuela and the economic crisis that is currently going on. For those of you who don't know, myself included, before this podcast at least, Venezuela at one time had the richest economy in the entire world prior to 2013, and ever since then has just been on, a torrential path to complete destruction. All that directly caused by the man who's in power now, Nicolas Maduro, and the cartel. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but because fuck, this podcast itself is long enough. We're closing in about close to 3 hours on this one, but I guess that's just what happens when you drink a bottle of Venezuelan rum and talk about life. It was to me, it was beautiful. I enjoyed every second of it, and we probably could have done 6-7 hours if we would have kept going, but maybe we'll have to do part 2 sometime. A few things I do want to get out of the way before we get going here. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, whatever the fuck you got to do on the iTunes app. All it does is help out the podcast. Follow me on all social media at Stacking Bricks on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Justin Scott Bricker. That's really about it. Yeah, love you guys. Thank you guys for fucking tuning in. Appreciate it. Yeah, just go ahead. Yep, we're good. Yep, go ahead. Cool. Just go ahead. Continue.
Continue.
Yeah. So backtrack 5 seconds and then continue. So you were diagnosed ADD as a child.
Oh yeah.
And they told you in Venezuela that you would never learn English because of that?
Yeah. So I was staying down there, and you have this child psychology. How do you call pediatrician?
Right.
And I was told that I was not able to concentrate, which is true up to some point. And I told I will never be able to learn English because I was always distracted of things around me. And up to some point I was, because my mother had to study with me, and after that I don't remember ever studying. Like, I don't remember ever studying in my life. I cannot sit down and just study.
Well, most little kids fucking can't.
Yeah.
Forcing a little kid to learn something they don't want to learn, or like they don't think it's going to be applicable at the time, 90% of the fucking time is not going to be the case.
Yeah, but I thought the same way. But also I did a thing. I get like half of the medication I take to one friend that doesn't have ADHD, and he told me he got like bad, like he started acting weird, crazy, and like his heart was beating. Mm-hmm. He was like not himself. And when I take it, I just feel normal. I just feel things are working.
Like you've leveled out and you can focus.
Like I can see you and concentrate on what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't need to like think of Pedro or like think of things around me.
And see everything else fucking going around.
I thought it was bullshit. I took it once, then stopped to see like how it normally is. Then I saw things getting disorganized around me, so I took it again.
Well, see, and that's the thing with Adderall too. Like, you have to be on it for a consistent amount of time for it to like have its actual effects. You take it one time and you might be a zombie, or you might be fucking speeding your ass off. But after you consistently take it, the effects are going to curtail off, or I shouldn't say the effects, but most of the side effects are going to curtail off, and you'll actually see the benefits of it. I think there's good and bad. Obviously you don't want to be fucking dependent on pills and anything in your life. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, fucking glad to have you guys here.
Funny story is, me and Benito, we met when we were like, I was like 10 years old when I met this guy.
You say a story. I don't remember anything. Like, I remember knowing you thinking you were a cool guy because he was big as hell.
So
Everybody was like looking up to
what's
him.
the age difference between you two?
He's a year younger than me.
Okay.
Well, I'm 22. You're 24, right?
2 years younger.
2 years.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
I didn't know that.
very
Yeah.
rarely am I the oldest one in the room. 25, boys.
The only reason why I
Young
remember
pups.
him
Senior,
is because his unique name. We went to the same high school together
Okay.
and same elementary school as well, and middle school. Back home is a little bit different.
So for the people who are listening, tell everybody where you guys are from.
Caracas, Venezuela,
Caracas, Venezuela.
Okay.
or Caracas, Minnesota.
Caracas, Minnesota. Go Vikings, dude.
Go Vikings.
Minnesota.
Oh my God. Okay.
So, and the reason why I'm telling this right now is because our common interest is jiu-jitsu,
right,
right?
all three of us.
Mm-hmm.
So, they started martial arts in school. There's a family that was, one of the teachers was related to karate, korban.
Ah, fuck what about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he started teaching karate in school, and I remember I went to a first class, and he was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen him, we stopped going and all that. We grew up. He later on came here to Missouri, and then we met back in St. Charles MMA.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of crazy seeing that we both,
Come from one side of the world.
Yeah,
and
and,
end up in the same fucking place.
wearing a fucking gi.
Wearing a fucking gi. That's amazing.
It's crazy.
That's
isn't it?
amazing. So how long have you been here, Pedro?
I've been here since, I lived here for 2 years when I was a kid, 2001 till 2003. And then I moved here in 2013.
Okay. What about you, Benito? When did you move here?
If I recall correctly, I think on January 2015.
2015. You came here for school, correct?
I came here for school, yes.
Okay. I bet.
Same as me.
Okay.
I started in St. Charles MMA around 2014.
No, that's good of you guys. I wish I would have started earlier over there.
I wish life wouldn't have pulled me away from martial arts.
Right.
I remember looking back in I came here for college. Looking back, all my memories are basically on the mats.
Since you've been here?
Yeah, basically New Year's Eve, Thanksgiving, spring break, everything was always on the mats.
With the family.
It's amazing. It's always the same crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It really saved my life. I will say that.
Yeah, and why do you say that?
When I was in ninth grade, my parents got divorced. It was pretty tough for me. I started playing rugby.
Mm-hmm.
Rugby was pretty cool. It was amazing. Lots of contact, lots of adrenaline.
Get that aggression out.
Yeah, I had older people, pulling me in and taking care of me. But later on, the more I played and the higher I got within the sport back home, they integrated jiu-jitsu into our practices. A lot of our players were getting injured. So they wanted to teach proper techniques on how to break a fall, how to tackle somebody. And if you really think about it, and if I show you rugby gear, it really does look kind of like no gi.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't rip. So you can do some gi stuff with the no gi material.
Right.
So I came here, played rugby my first semester, really didn't like it too much. A lot of bad influences within the team. One of my good friends committed suicide. So it was, we played our last game together. It was kind of weird. I was always looking for jiu-jitsu. You know what? I wanted to keep doing it. One day I'm training at Lindenwood, just working out, and I see Sampo. And I see his big ears, and I know, cauliflower ears.
Right.
And I was like, hey, do you do MMA? He looks at me, he says, nah. And then he keeps walking. So 2 years later, or a year later, I see him at St. Charles MMA.
And this is right, and I bet you this is right at the time Sample's in the UFC. And
right after.
Right after. Okay.
So, or maybe in between, he was training some people at Lindenwood. So I meet Rice House, Tracy Taylor, Mike Ryers, all of them. And one day I see Sampo, he came back. And I look at him and I said, 2 years ago, I asked you if you did MMA, and you said no. And I still remember, that's something, I don't really forget a lot of things.
Right. Especially somebody lying straight to your face when you know that they're lying.
Exactly. It's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, he punished me then for that.
I bet.
Yeah,
I bet.
he choked me out quite a few times.
And for those who don't know, Josh Sampo fought at 135 pounds in UFC,
And at that moment, I was like 275, benching 365.
and you're what, 6'4"?
6'5".
Yeah, exactly.
And he was still, and that's the reason why I loved it so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Augustine, he's what, your same weight division?
No, he fights at 45, but he walks at about 160.
Well, I first met him, and he, a few years back, he didn't look as big as what he looks now.
Right. Well, now he's grown into a man.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely. And I'm telling you, I was benching him off of me from side control, and I realized it didn't work for anything. I couldn't do anything, So he was choking me out, submitted me. There's a guy named Duran Stes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know him. Same thing, getting me in triangles, all kinds of stuff. So I immediately stopped lifting. I was like, I don't really need this. I need jiu-jitsu. That's what I need.
Right. That's so fun. Benito, how did you come here? You came here in school for a scholarship, or how the fuck? How does one person come from Venezuela and end up in fucking St. Charles, Missouri?
That's an amazing question. I love that question. So,
A mistake.
this is
A big mistake.
not a mistake. It's just strange. You could call it luck or being blessed. I just had a drive. I just really wanted to be here. I was studying in la Universidad Metropolitana in Caracas.
That's the Metropolitan University.
Okay.
That's if you want, you can put subtitles after our podcast is done.
Oh, yeah, just sit down like 2 hours, like 5 hours, 6 hours, putting like subs everywhere.
Just edit it in. And what this really means is
Commentary on the side.
sidebar. But yeah, continue. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I was studying there at Metropolitan University, and it was very good. I was surrounded of probably the smartest people you could think of in the country, and that's a lot to say. And you meet amazing people that know a crazy amount of languages, very well prepared. But you see that they don't have the environment doesn't. They have no way of getting out of that hole where they're in. And the university, all the issues you have, the professors not being paid enough and moved to other countries. And well, the thing is that I used to remember driving there, and the big issue that is in Venezuela is mostly class. Like here you see a lot of racial divide. I feel like there's class divide, and you really feel that. So I was lucky enough to be born in a family where we have, thanks to, we have money, like upper middle class basically.
Right.
That's what you call yourself.
Same here. Hell yeah. I grew up fucking a little above upper middle class, but not enough to be rich.
Exactly, right there. Yeah. And so. Yeah, and so when I was driving to the university, you would see people like giving you looks of you don't deserve this, or like I need to take this from you, like hatred sort of deal. And that's a lot of personally, in my personal views, I feel that comes a lot from socialism of like, well, not really socialism, but the ideal of you have more than me, so I need to take from you. So
the scarcity mindset. Somebody else's success being your somebody else's success being your failure.
And so where I studied was next to the biggest favela in the world. I think it's bigger than the one in Brazil. In Brazil, yeah. So it's huge. It's big.
Petare.
Huh?
Petare.
Petare. It's bigger than So it's hard to get this perspective of how many people live there.
There's more than 1 million people living there.
And it's
in one favela.
No, it's like a mountain. And the favela is like a mountain. It's very concentrated
population.
But
it's huge. Like covers almost like the northeast of the entire country.
It's a whole different world. Like here, we don't know what goes inside. So you would have to ask somebody there, and they would know like their district. It's a whole different world. So it's hard to get into it.
There's people inside that have never left the favela.
Right.
There's kids that are born
and die in the favela.
They haven't been even registered because they're so into it that they don't get the chance to be, we don't have Social Security back home. Like the Social Security number here,
right.
When you're 9 years old, you register for your citizen's number, right? So my number is 22 million something. There's people there that never received that number.
Millions of them.
Yeah. And so, they live there, and it's hard to keep count of organization of that. Like if you have a bunch of people just mixed up on top of each other in different like houses, brick houses with aluminum ceilings, it's very hard to keep track of that. But you still need to give them food, electricity. They still need to keep themselves alive.
Right.
Stop right there. I'm add something really quick. In criminology, there's a social structural theory called social disorganization theory of crime, and it states that in a community or place that everything's disorganized, there's a lot of people moving around, single parent household, a lot of drugs, gang activity. It's dirty, all kinds of stuff. It's more possible, or there's more ways that crime will keep happening. And that's basically what goes on in the favela.
Right.
So I'm not saying they don't have an option, but socially speaking, the possibility of the people that reside within the favela have less opportunities to actually make a logical decision, added up to social modeling theory in psychology, which people do whatever they learn, right?
I learned
So if your environment is all gang activity, there's not a lot of morals and values in your community.
Right.
You just keep being born and raised. You know, the cycle of life goes by with the same traits.
Right. That's the definition of the saying, you're a product of your environment.
Exactly.
Right.
So, you know, saying it more scientifically, those are already two criminological theories that happen within one place.
And
Keep going.
Can I build that up from there? I feel that a lot of the racial divide here is because of that. Like, you know, black individuals for the most part live on the environment surrounded of, you know, bad surroundings, and this.
Which happened after war. I mean, it's always been segregated because of racial issues. In the United States, it's a little bit different. It's because of something called redlining. You can actually look it up. Back in the day, after World War II, basically they couldn't discriminate towards African Americans because of their racial status.
Mm-hmm.
They could only discriminate because of economical stuff. I mean, they always did racially discriminate towards,
Right.
you know, minorities,
Right.
but they couldn't publicly show it. So they started practicing redlining, which is big mortgage companies, insurance companies, and loaners.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give loans
Right.
to African Americans in certain communities. So although the term discrimination was not being used in the United States,
It was exactly what it was.
you know, people were still being segregated. You know, white people fled to different areas, you know, while blacks were still being contained within communities, you know. And even though we changed something in a book, it's too hard to change it in a person.
Well,
it takes generations.
Exactly. You know, you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody to get somebody to change their mind who's been not only taught something since the day they were born, but have been doing it their entire life. You know, 50 years, 30 years, 20 years, whatever it is. It's so hard to change somebody's mind on any subject, let alone something that they have been, you know, like I said, born into.
And in both sides, because whites are guilty as the same as, you know, African Americans. If you don't go to college, if you don't go to school, if you don't go to elementary school, middle school, you know, every school has something to teach you.
Right.
Back in the day, regardless of your race, it was not that common to go to school. You know, we had two big social classes, the rich and the poor, basically.
Right.
You know, the middle class was still struggling. So the whites had their tendencies and their traits and their racial biases towards, you know, minorities, and they weren't, it wasn't easy to change because of lack of exposure and education. You know, nowadays it's totally different. There's still a lot of racial issues, but I believe because of how the world is being globalized, you know, it's not as harsh, you know, violent
Right.
as it used to be. It's
Not-
still
not even
there.
close.
It's still there,
Right.
but it's not as harsh.
So, I think that the biggest thing about understanding racism is that it's mostly understanding the why. As to if you understand the why things are how they are, like how black tend to have a bigger, for example, criminality rate, which is I think that's recorded, right? If I'm not mistaken, that's recorded, and that's a fact. But the thing is that if you understand the why as to why that is, people start understanding and getting empathy as to why this happens. If you have if the common thing in your neighborhood is that your parents, you know, hit you, or that you were raised only by your mother and they have issues and they have a lot of kids, and you have then gangs coming up and like trying to make money around, like hustling, you know, that's your lifestyle. And if whites would be in the same position, they would do exactly the same thing. I feel like they wouldn't act any different way.
Right.
They would still follow their things, their environment, and make them move through. Yeah.
I wouldn't even call it blacks. I would just say minorities, because if we look back, Irish people were being discriminated too.
Yeah. When they first immigrated here. Well,
The paddy wagon. They call it like that because of Irish people.
Right.
Hispanics were being discriminated. Asians were being discriminated. So I think it's just basically a product of your environment and where you
So
you live.
let me ask you this: do you think it's more racism or like tribalism? Like as in, because like you see like you go to Africa and the Hutus and the Tutsis or whatever.
Yeah.
Both of them are black as night, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't tell one from the other unless somebody starts speaking about their beliefs, and they fucking hate each other to the death. They're burning over cities, towns, whatever, just because of their different tribes. So do you think it translates more to tribalism? Just because, okay, well, my tribe's white, your tribe's brown, this tribe's green, black, whatever, but there's just more of one tribe here.
Yeah, but
You can answer it first.
Yeah, I feel like that's a topic that extends racism because tribalism nowadays doesn't occur only in color; it also occurs like in the same mindset. For example, if
Exactly.
I'm the Republican and you're a Democrat, it's us
Right.
against them.
Right.
This is our mindset, and you're wrong and I'm right. It's just not about getting in other people's shoes and understanding. Can you repeat the question one more time?
So do you think the problem is more racism or tribalism?
Oh, I feel mostly tribalism because you don't see people like ganging up in color and going around going crazy. It's more like I feel it's mostly people with the same mindset, pushing in their own ideals without understanding the other people's suffering or
I think
life.
it's a tribalism with a cover on top called racism.
Right, and that's kind of how I feel too, especially in America. Maybe not worldwide, whatever, but I think especially in America.
Well, definitely, I've been all over the world, and I can tell you right now that the United States probably had the toughest history with discrimination worldwide. But check this out. According to the books, there's 3 major races, right? Mongoloids, which are the Asians, Caucasian, and Negroids. I'm not saying the
Right,
N-word.
right.
It's the actual
The term.
according
the
to
term.
anthropologists, after all the years of humans, being in the world together, we have been exposed to so many different people and crossbred that those 3 major races are really not 3 major races. Everybody's, mixed.
Yeah.
My great grandmother she was super dark. She was African American, super dark. My grandmother was Italian, so you can tell. Back home when the Spaniards would have a kid in Venezuela, they were called Creoles. When an African American or a black person back home, I don't know if they should be called African Americans.
I don't know how I like that term. Anyways, like to me,
That's true.
black, white, whatever.
Yeah.
If you're from America, you're American.
You're
to me.
putting,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
putting them in a box.
But what I'm saying, continent
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
I
right.
don't even know how to call them. But they were called pretos if they were mixed, and born back home. So they were so crossbred that even if you see people in Venezuela, they don't really there's black people, there's white people, but most of everybody's mixed. Like he was saying, the people that would stare at him. I'm gonna put it like this.
They would be all mixed. They wouldn't be like black or white. They would be all mixed up.
I'm gonna put it like this. When you receive the description of a suspect back home, race is never an issue.
No.
It's not even part
Right.
of the description. They said male within the years of 29 to 45 was seen last, fleeing from
Right.
whatever. But race was not even included,
And speaking of crime, if you have something to finish, go ahead and finish.
Well, I wanted to go back to your example. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
Actually, the example of the Tutsis and Wutsis, which is a good example. Actually, it's a very good analogy because of the fact of they're the same color, right? They're exactly the same peoples. They probably came from the same ancestors. They're the same peoples, completely the same, but they're divided by basically their inner small tribal culture. For example, here, instead of instead of opening banana peels this way, we open it the other side.
Right.
And that makes us different from you guys. And so now this is a way of us, having a reason to be against you or being, you are different and you're different from us and you don't think the same way. So I think right now tribalism can come from just making abstract concepts and pushing it towards a reason, you're rationalizing attacking another group for X reason. For
Right.
example, let's say that some groups want to push the straight white male out of the equation of the people that are like the rich white people that are on top, and so we create that concept of us being, being united against that. Okay,
Okay.
What do you think?
yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, like I said, like you said, I think it's more of tribalism coded with that, coded by racism. Because at the end of the day, there are more white people than there are any other race in this.
I think that's not correct.
Well, now probably not. Now with as many immigrants that are coming into the country legally, illegally, whatever.
If you count the black people and also the Latino community, that would be the black community and the Latino community. I think that would be a bigger percentage than
In the
actual white
States?
people. Yeah,
in the States.
I believe so. I mean, I don't have the numbers right in front of me. Please go ahead and look if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But even that, or the margin is so narrow.
Right now.
And the percentage of white people reproducing is smaller than the other side of the Latino and the black community that are reproducing, that they're gonna surpass the amount
Eventually.
and so we shouldn't say that because white is majority and they're pushing us down. It's more like we need to understand ourselves. If I would go to, let's say I start living on Laos in Nigeria, it's a whole city of black people. So from there you would have to adapt to the culture they have. You would have to adapt to the culture they have, no matter the color of your skin. You simply would have to adapt to the culture and the way they see the world and join their culture. You cannot just simply start imposing your own rules on a society that already has their own whole set of rules.
Well, so from what Pedro pulled up, it says 60% of non-Hispanic whites make up the United States.
Yeah,
But
that's fantastic.
yeah,
That's good.
Absolutely.
I don't say it's good nor bad. It's just how it is.
It's just how it is.
That's how it is. Because the colony started with white people, and then immigration started, taking over, and now we've managed to get to that multiculturality point where Venezuela has gone through, and Canada is also living it. Like Canada, I love that country because of the fact of how many different cultures and races of people they are, and how united and good and nice they are to each other, and how they understand.
Right.
So they created their own culture that doesn't limit itself to their color, but rather to a united set of goals and morals. And that's what you need to do to keep people together. And that's what I see in the States not happening, not trying to find common ground of, just people not wanting to get into other people's backs or anything. Not going, yeah.
Well, and
Oh, and yeah, you can just
no, go ahead.
Just keep going on because of the fact that I didn't answer your question, but I completely off topic because that's what I love doing. That's what I tell you about. I like taking Addies, helping not do that when I'm studying, especially.
Right.
Like going off topics.
That one-track mind.
Yeah, one-track mind. I want to have like many-track mind when I'm studying or doing programming.
Right. That's right. I always forget you're a programmer.
So
your brain's always all over the place. Yeah.
It's annoying because I also have issues with time. Like the concept I have of time is very abstract. So
That's why you're late all the time.
Yeah. So for example, yesterday.
No, that's not an ADHD thing. That's
a personality.
That's a
trait.
Hispanic thing.
That's a
I
Hispanic
believe.
thing. I know.
Because he was supposed to pick me up, and I was late.
Right.
And I
You were
figured
late at your own house.
no, but I figured he was here long enough in America that he wouldn't be here late. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna be there on time. No, I said to myself, I'm gonna be there on time to pick him up, and I was late as well. It's so messed up that it's like that. So yesterday I was gonna like hang out with my girlfriend and tell her I was gonna be there at 8. So in my head I was like 8, yeah, I'm gonna be there at 8, and then I see my time. And it's like 10 for 8, like 10. It was like I wasn't gonna get there in time, and I was still in my head thinking like I'm gonna be there fine.
We'll be good. We'll be good.
Like 10 minutes, it's like fine. It's all right.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes late, 20 minutes late, it's just fine. But you need to get in people's shoes. People value time so much.
So much.
Exactly, and you need to respect people's time, and that's what we don't really understand because I feel very laid back, like very laid back time wise and life wise. People very laid back. People, like everything just brushes off. That's why we have very dark humor, that we make very dark jokes between each other.
Right.
Because everything just brushes off. We don't stick to anything. Like we don't say like, oh, you told me this, I look ugly, so I'm gonna think I'm ugly from now on. It's just like you told me I'm ugly, like that's your opinion, dude. Like go fuck yourself or something.
Right.
Yeah, for example, the N-word back home is not something bad.
Yeah, but people laugh to it, and we just joke around.
Like,
But
you could be
but
even
they,
called. It
and
could
they
even,
laugh here too, unless you're white and say it.
Whoa, hold on. Before we
yeah.
go into something that it's too far down the road.
Yeah.
The N-word back home is people get called by their characteristic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, couples tend to call each other fat. Hi, fat. Literally, gordo. Gorda.
high five.
That's literally what it means.
Hola gorda.
And between couples, that's how they call each other. If you're dark, they call you negro. El negro, negrito.
Negrito, sí. El chino.
If you're Asian, they
Yeah.
call you chino. Or if you kind of look Asian, they call you chino. Like, it's normal.
And we know that you may look Korean or you look Mongolian. We know like the difference because we know geography. We know how people tend to look.
He's got cauliflower ears.
It's okay.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, you can take the headphones off if you don't.
No,
if
I
you don't
really
need
like how it sounds, dude. But I do have like a tape to run my head around with headphones.
it. I can't. Yeah, I don't know why they aren't staying on.
I'll just hold them off. I really like hearing myself
Dumbo
in this
ears.
way. It's
I like to
something.
hear myself talk too. That's
Yeah,
that's
I love hearing myself looking at myself. Yeah, that's how it works,
When I
right?
start a podcast, but I don't like to hear myself talk. But let's get into let's actually get into some stuff about Venezuela.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I didn't answer my question about how did I arrive here. I
Oh
actually-
yeah. So
that's
yeah,
what I was gonna say.
yeah,
We're going to be here for 5 hours, and then we can
I
talk
can
about
I
this.
can definitely do like a 3-hour podcast. I don't know what your average time is, so I can
there
go
is no
for
time.
It's fun. If you take too long, I'll choke you out. Go
My
ahead.
first one was 2.5 hours. The one I released Thursday was fucking 45 minutes.
Which is amazing for me at work. I'm just, sitting down, put my headphones on, and start listening to people talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
All right, go ahead.
So as I was saying, I was
classism, favelas, university.
Yeah, so I got to a very dark place in my life. I started like, even though I was surrounded, my family loved me. I was in a very nice neighborhood and my own bubble. I knew I was in the bubble. I like people don't realize you're in the bubble. You just hang out. They go to clubs, they laugh, they hang out with their own friends, and just ignore the fact that everything around them is just falling apart. And I don't look the world that way. Even though I get myself out from reality in my own mind, just like in that case, it's just hard to ignore, really. And
Right.
It starts getting to you, the people how look at you, how the hatred just starts like piling up, and it's very like feeling that hatred is very dark, even because it's like I want to kill your hatred, like you don't deserve that, and I want to take it from you. It's very dark feeling, and I got to a very dark place, and my parents and we ended up realizing that me staying there and graduating there, I wanted to graduate there and do masters here, and in the end, that wouldn't really. I mean, it was just better to do. It was just better to do undergraduates here and graduate with the title and go ahead and get a job right away instead of just. I think we would be spending more time just to save money, which in the end, like if you just come here and study and you have the attitude and the drive to stay here, you will. Like as simple as that. Like if you have the drive, like opportunities will come by. It's America, for the most part, it's America, and it's a place where opportunities tend to appear and people don't see them. So you have to learn. You just have to learn and teach yourself things that you like, and you'll start seeing opportunities that other people might not see. And that's how I made it here. So my parents found out that there was a school, Lindenwood, in St. Charles, which was offering 50%. So I will always be grateful to Lindenwood for letting me come here in a very low price and start my school here. If not, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
50% for immigrants or
for
50%?
international people. So
Okay.
it was higher than they gave.
That makes
to,
a lot of sense.
It was higher than the ones they gave to out of state. So
Right.
their goal was to get international people, right, for the most part. And that opened a lot of doors to a lot of people. For example, Pedro went there for ESL to start studying there. Just start try it out. It wasn't like very expensive, so you could get a taste of what's up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally loved it. I felt like culture-wise, I feel like very connected to the American way, and personal freedom, just being yourself and go from there.
What is the perception of the American way in Venezuela?
Different, very. I think very.
It's different, but I can tell you right now that a lot of people back home, within our social economic status, appreciate and support America.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I mean, when it comes to global economics and politics, I mean, I'm 10 steps lower than a white belt. Like I have no idea. I've just always heard the common idea about America is everybody hates us. I know nothing.
Maybe
and that's why I'm so grateful to have you two on. You've experienced both sides of the world.
It's kind of weird because from my social environment back home, they actually appreciate Trump a lot back home right now.
Because
and it's weird to
who's in
say,
office back home, because of who's in office back home.
Because Trump's administration, and I'm not trying to start a political conversation or anything.
We talk about whatever we want.
But I can tell you that Trump's administration is hitting really hard narcos and stuff like that going on, which our country right now is basically being
We're a narco state.
supported by narcotics.
Yeah.
So
We're not talking about weed, we're not talking about Adderall, we're not talking about we're talking about literally cocaine
And
cocaine in the
heroin.
world. Venezuela is being supported right now by oil and cocaine,
Yeah.
basically.
Mhm.
and cocaine is
So-
winning.
And that's who's funding Nicolas Maduro in office.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Check this.
Yes.
Well, they call it the cartel of the sun, SUN, right? Generals back home in the military, their symbol is the sun. It's not like here it might be a star. So it's basically the cartel of the generals. And they're so bold they openly state it.
Mhm.
So check this out. 2 of Nicolas Maduro's nephews got arrested in Haiti by DEA with 800 kilos of cocaine in an airplane.
Yep.
800 kilos of cocaine. If we look up the sentencing guidelines by the federal government,
Mm-hmm.
after I believe 1 kilo, you could get up to life sentence in federal prison.
Right.
We're not talking about state. In federal prison, you have to serve 85%. There's no parole. There's no nothing. So you do most of your time. And sentencing is not by years, it's by months.
Right.
They both got 20 years. After they decided they were going to comply and
Yeah.
open their mouths. So 20 years is a very long time for somebody that's 37 years old. Those are directly connected to the president.
Mhm.
Now, Hugo Chavez's treasurer, he just got arrested. No, he actually,
And he was
He
he was in power before Nicolas Maduro.
yeah,
Correct?
basically was given to him.
Okay.
So this guy used to move all the money for Chavez. They called him the lazy eye, Andrade,
Because he looked
because they were playing. No. Check this out. They were playing baseball one day, and they would play baseball with broomsticks and the caps of beer caps. And Chavez hit the beer cap and it hit him in the eye. So he lost his eye because of Chavez. And Chavez's way to pay him back from what he did was to make him in charge of all the money in the country. When Chavez was in power, our budget was based on $65 per barrel of oil. And that was around when Bush was in power here.
Right.
At that time, the barrel of oil was up to like $120. So that was $60 per barrel that was getting lost somewhere, right? So this guy's in charge of $7 billion, all the money Chavez's daughters have, and all that. He just turned himself in Florida
When?
a few weeks back.
No way. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
He just turned himself in
Wow.
Florida. And he
Yeah.
decided to speak and negotiate. He was just given 10 years federal prison.
For confessing. If he wouldn't confess, like lifetime,
And within his plea agreement, he was gonna start saying everything that's going on.
Good.
So that's a big step because for
Hell yeah.
us, all that money that our country has, Venezuela has more oil than Dubai.
So
it's the biggest oil reserve in the world.
Right. And then at one point it was the 5th largest economy.
Yeah,
in the
and it
world,
was
correct?
valued higher than the dollar. The
At one point, it was the top economy in the world.
Okay.
valued
When
higher.
Perez
Yeah.
Jimenez back in the 40s
Yeah.
was in power. He
So-
was a dictator.
So let's backtrack just a little bit. Why don't you guys explain what is going on? Because we kind of just jumped into the middle of this. This is a conversation. The three of us kind of have. I have a small bit of information just because I've been doing some research this week. So I knew I was going to have you guys on, but most of the people who are going to be listening aren't going to have any idea what the fuck we're talking about.
Absolutely.
All right.
So let's do a little rewind to leading up to Nicolas Maduro being put in office in 2013, correct?
Something like that. I'm gonna go back to the 70s and 80s.
Okay, cool.
go
All right,
ahead.
cool.
So basically, 70s and 80s, the people that were in power, they were people that were middle, high class, right? There's always been poverty in Venezuela. Venezuela's always been a rich country. However, poor people, or let's say less fortunate people in Venezuela, were struggling really hard. So after Cuba became what it was with Fidel Castro, and this is the untold story, that same group of revolutionaries started invading behind the scenes, underneath the waters, deep waters, schools back home, and they started invading the military. Hugo Chavez was a lieutenant colonel in the military, right? First of all, according to the Constitution back then, military officers were not able to have any sort of political contact.
Yeah.
So let's keep that in mind for future reference.
Right.
So after Castro and all they infiltrate, in 1989, there's a civil unrest, supposedly. The word of the street is that right before it happened, there were ships back home arriving with weapons. So it was something paid.
Right.
The excuse was that the president back then decided to change some things in the economy so that he could keep some more money to better the country. And one of those things was increase the price of gas. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Back home, I can fill up like 20 vehicles for less than $1. It's super cheap. Gas is cheaper than a soda.
Mm-hmm.
You can go...
A full tank.
Yeah, you can go drink gas all you want for $1, but you cannot buy a soda.
It's cheaper to start drinking gas and just buy water.
Yeah,
I think.
basically.
Yeah.
So, which is nonsense because if you think about it...
And I'm happy I filled up for $1.69 today.
Yeah.
And I was fucking pumped. I filled my tank for less than $35.
So if you think about it, it shouldn't really matter within the prices. All the prices skyrocketed back home, but it really shouldn't matter because regardless of how much I'm paying for gas, let's think about McDonald's, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many Big Macs can you fit in a big semi?
I couldn't even...
Thousands, right?
Yeah.
So if they increase the price of the gallon for like $2-3, I'm dividing that price within thousands of burgers.
Right.
So it's a fake reasoning for which they said people were struggling more, the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a civil unrest and they control it. It's a huge massacre. It's a big mess. It's called the Caracazo. And that basically was in our hometown. In 1992, Chavez creates another civil unrest and it failed. He got arrested.
Right.
The biggest problem was that the media allowed him publicly state on national TV that the objective was not fully fulfilled, and he was
And what was the basis of this civil unrest?
that the rich people were taking everything from the poor people.
Mm-hmm.
And he was trying to lead the revolution against
Really,
them.
yeah, because he was from the poor people.
When in reality he's the 1% and is one of the rich people.
Well, back then he was not that 1%, but he was being financed by
Gotcha.
somebody, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So the president afterwards decides to release him from prison.
Mm-hmm.
And
Immunity. No. He gives him.
there's two terms back home.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is in which you are forgiven for your
Mm-hmm.
crimes committed. If you're forgiven for your crimes committed, you can still not be a president because you were forgiven, but there's crimes in your records.
Right.
And then the other one is the expunged. It means nothing happened.
Like being
Pardon. Yeah.
That's a little bit more than that because there's nothing on your records. Your files are literally shredded. So that's what they did with him. So you can think, well, this guy just was in charge of the massacre of a lot of people, and now you're going to take all that paperwork out and throw it out the window, and now he got released. So he ran for the presidency in 1998. He got elected. At first, only that 1% of rich people that were supposedly mean people knew what he was about.
Mm-hmm.
And they called it in 1998, 97, they were all saying he's going to be a dictator. They were all saying this guy is going to cause major issues because he was promising things that weren't going to really happen. I mean, in socialism, if you want me to tell you about socialism, it's beautiful in paper, but it really doesn't work.
No, I think in paper it's still bad. Like, it's just...
No, but I'm saying, like, you can still believe, like, oh, okay, maybe that sounds...
You think of kindness, you think of giving it to people, but you also need to think that you're taking it for people that really, it's an iceberg. Like, people that have income, like, really have to put a lot of work in for the most part.
Which, there's a lot of socialism in the United States right now. But
Yeah.
we'll get to that point a little bit later. So he gets elected in 2002. They have another civil unrest, supposedly against Chavez.
Right.
The thing is that looking back with a little bit more knowledge, all the people that were arrested and captured after the civil unrest were the people that Chavez didn't like. All the people that got prosecuted were the people that were against Chavez.
Like who? Do you know names?
Yeah, like for example, the director of the FBI sort of thing back home, Simonovic.
Okay.
He was a really high end uh, police chief, really powerful. He was the only one that made the order for the police department that he was in charge to contain the people that were killing our communities, and the people that were killing our communities were basically the revolutionaries. So after that happened, he got arrested. A very powerful man. A lot of people respected him and still do. But everybody that was against him, nothing happened. And if we put it like this, Chavez was taken in a helicopter, you know, almost like hostage, right? So if you're really running a revolution and you have a president and the guy is never going to change or anything, you're taking him in a helicopter, you really have everything fine. Somebody could have pushed him off the helicopter.
Somebody could have killed him before they got in that helicopter.
Nobody did.
Nobody.
So it was all planned.
Right.
So then, I'm not going to name names, but after Bush was president, a lot of international policies stopped being placed against communism in Venezuela, and it started growing more and more prominent. It went from only being Cuba, the only country in this side of the world being communist, to being Nicaragua, Bolivia, Ecuador. Panama had problems with that too. Brazil, Argentina.
Like a disease just spreading around.
It started all spreading. When Bush was the president, Chavez could not even do half of what Maduro is doing. Matter of fact, Chavez's government was horrible. It was terrible.
Wow.
But it wasn't because of the socialism and targeting people and political prisoners and all kinds of stuff. But it wasn't half as bad as what it is now with Maduro. Now that Trump is in the government and his office is attacking different things, DEA is actually doing a great job right now.
Yeah.
Prosecuting people and actually hitting the heavy hitters. Now it's a totally different ball game.
Right.
Now they're actually scared.
Back home.
Yeah, back home. So that's why I'm telling you, immigration laws and everything are harsh, but they've always been harsh.
Right.
It's always been a hard thing. You've always had to do your interview to go get a visa. You've always had to do it. It's just like I tell people, I'm Hispanic and I'm an immigrant, and I don't mind having a wall. What's the difference between a fence and a wall?
There's nothing.
It's something that's already there. What's the difference? Mexico is super aggravated right now because of the people marching, from El Salvador or wherever,
Oh, you mean the things that's currently going on right now?
Yeah.
They destroy the border.
Dude, I believe that's sort of like an invasion. You're invading the other nation.
They're
Basically,
getting financed, and we're immigrants, and we know it. And,
Right.
and it's
They
the
are
same
getting
thing that's
financed,
the
yeah.
same thing that's happened back home.
How many you have so much people of low class, poor people going around that you'll get along. Let's just go there and move all together. No, there's somebody behind
Where's the
fueling
money?
that. There are buses, people taking them to places. Okay, from here you walk.
Where's
there.
all the food?
Right.
Yeah, how they keep themselves alive walking there. They won't starve to death. How they manage to get out there, fine, just start fighting the cops over there or fighting the border security, being fine with it. If you're starving and you're really going through border, it'll be more difficult than that, especially if you're going through such a horrible terrain such as Central America, which is full of forest and disease that you might find on the way. Like the same way when they were building the Panama Canal, they had a big issue of people just dying, because of how many diseases that were not discovered over there.
Let me put you in perspective.
Yeah.
And same thing applies to Venezuela. Let's say you built your own brick house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you built it yourself. You had to go buy to Home Depot every brick, and you worked your ass off to build it by yourself with no money. 4 walls, 14 people living there, you're really poor. Do you really think you're gonna leave that home for nothing?
Fuck no.
It's something you built with everything you have. Everything you have is those 4 walls.
You're gonna get up and leave it for a hope, and
Unless somebody gives you some good money, you're not leaving 14 of your family members
No way.
there.
No way.
Same thing, let me put you in perspective. From the criminal justice point of view, the media blew up what happened in the border with the Mexican kids from the school bus, that they kept them there and they were giving them foil as blankets. Well, let me straighten out that story a little bit. First of all, first of all, I guarantee you, those kids did not come in with their parents. So if they don't come in with their parents, the United States cannot release them to somebody they don't know. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
need proof. You need actual proof.
So if I take 35 children to Canada, and I get caught with them, they're not gonna release 35 children to me
into the fucking wild either.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you have a little bit of knowledge of outdoors, space blankets are actually the best thing you can have to keep your heat. You know what a space blanket is?
Yeah. A foil fucking blanket.
It looks like foil, but it's the
Yeah.
best way to keep your heat,
Yeah.
and it's the cheapest way too.
What, you ever looked inside of a lunchbox these days? That's
It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Same thing. It's insulation.
Yep.
You know, it reflects the radiation of your heat
Mhm.
back to you. So the media exploited something that really wasn't true, making it seem like the United States is this horrible country, keeping kids and all that. Well, you don't know who that person is. What if the driver was actually arrested for having prior felonies or something like that? Because I guarantee you, if you do something, if you get caught doing something like that, you've done it before.
Well, or what if, I was gonna say, what if this driver's never been arrested and their entire life they've been a career child sex trafficker,
That's you.
and every single day of their life, their entire mission is how am I to get these children from point A to point B without getting caught, and
Which is a big issue right now.
which is a giant issue, not only here but fucking worldwide.
Well, the U.S. Marshals a few weeks back, they did a big raid and found 122 missing children in New Orleans. 122. Not one, not two.
Right. There's
That's
there's one and
122
two twos in there.
There's 122 families that get to spend their Christmas with their kids again.
Another families, the families and the friends of the family and the family of the family.
Which
It's
we
like
call them the
122
victims and the secondary
communities.
victims.
Yeah.
secondary.
122 communities that are now, affected again.
So there is a lot of things going on in the world that, the media is showing us, like we're some cruel country or something like that, which it's truly not exactly what's going on.
Right.
And I wanna go back to Venezuela and for it seems of the oil business. I think of something that we need to take into account of the oil business is that it's basically government nationalized the oil business. So it's not like
Chavez did it too.
yeah. Was it Chavez? I think it was from Caldera. I think it was from before that.
Yeah, if it wasn't Chavez, it was something. It's a socialist thing, something related to Chavez. Back in the day, we could, you had companies that could take the oil out, work with the government, make some more money. International company, Dubai,
Right.
expand the country. Then they control that. The only company that can take oil out was the government, which now is not happening anymore because of their lack of training. They fired everybody in the oil industry that knew any information about how to run it.
Like my father was one of the people that was involved on getting the big firing. So PDVSA, which is
Oil also Venezuela.
Petróleo, oil is Venezuela for the most part, and a lot of crew were just laid off for the discontent that this was within the company. How it was being run, the people that was being put on top that really didn't know what was going on, and the production was lowering. And engineers, they know what's going on, so they started getting upset of how things are being run.
So your father's an engineer?
No,
He worked for.
He graduated as an electrical engineer.
Okay.
And basically studied business management, and he ended up going to the oil field.
So a man that has been going to school and working in the field his entire life was called that 1%er, right?
Right.
He gets fired, and they put there somebody that doesn't even have a high school degree because they are liked by somebody who's running the show with the government into the same position of a professional that has been doing it his entire life.
Right.
So imagine that with thousands of jobs because of socialism, because the 1%ers are not able to do it.
Yeah.
So how is that company going to run? Somebody has no
Right into the
clue.
ground. That's how it's gonna run.
I wanted to get right so the oil was nationalized on 1975 by Carlos Andrés Pérez,
Mm-hmm.
and it said that the industry and the commerce of the it's in Spanish, de los hidrocarburos, which in turn nationalized the petroleum industry. So basically, what they did, they just like you cannot be a private company and own a
Oil refinery.
like-
oil,
Like in
Yeah.
Texas, you know, Texas,
Right.
if it's your property, it's your oil,
Shell,
there's a
Shell,
lot of rich people there.
Right.
Shell,
It cannot happen.
Shell, ExxonMobil. They're like the oil companies are one of the richest companies in the whole world. So
They are.
yeah, they
There's
are.
no doubt
So-
about
Yeah,
it.
there's no
so imagine
doubt.
if you centralize all of that into one entity. So in this case, it's the government that has all the control of the oil, and we that's the biggest thing we produce. For the most part, that's
That's
the
our
only thing-
major source of income.
I think
Right.
that's our main export, or maybe the only one right now. And
And then not only that, you only centralize it, but you fire every capable person of doing it. You don't pay them what you owe them, and then you put underqualified people running the show, right?
Right.
So they only know how to do two things: dictatorship and narcos.
Mhm.
So oil is their cover, but the actual money comes from narcotics.
So for the most part, the oil is used for bribing neighboring countries. So that's why you don't see
To
the
traffic drugs through, or
Well,
just
well, if Cuba has had the embargo for many years, so Venezuela will give them 500,000 barrels of oil to support the cause.
you have something called the OEA, the Organización de Estados Americanos, which is the
Organization of American
of
States.
American states.
By states, I mean countries.
And,
Right,
and they before everything was going on, most of them are aware of what's going on within Venezuela for a while, because of course you have every country has its own intelligence, and they get aware of this political situation in other nations more in depth than the people know, and so they were aware of what's going on, but Venezuela basically bribed them into not saying anything or not fighting against it within that organization, because they give them oil for a very, very stupid low price, so the other countries can sell the oil and basically get good money for it. And the same way they sell it to the people, they make the people happy because the oil is subsidized. They lose money when they give us oil. That's the issue. That's why they wanted to raise tax. The oil was subsidized. They would sell it to people, and the government will be losing money, like a lot of money when, like even though we
Which
could,
it worked. It worked fine for the major countries, like for the United States, getting that oil from Venezuela. It was perfect. Oh, let's get the oil from them. You know, it's way cheaper than anybody else. It's super close to us. We don't care. When do we start caring? We start caring when their personal problems start becoming our problems.
Yeah.
such as
When they start bringing drugs to the United States after
Yeah.
Nixon's war on
Beca-
drugs.
because the main export of Venezuela, our main export was the United States. So the United States was buying a lot of oil from Venezuela,
Especially during the war on
and for
terror.
a good price. I imagine that's
Like $100 a barrel back in the day when Bush was in.
it's a high price.
Alright.
So basically, and they were still like bashing each other every now and then, like oh Bush is a pig and stuff, and they were still like taking pictures and hanging out. It's it's just a political play. That's what politics is for the most part.
I mean, there's no game to it. I'm going to tell you this right now. We have something called Google Maps, right?
right.
We're civilians. Can you imagine the technology the government has?
Absolutely.
It might be unreal.
They
like,
know
Everything.
Star
No.
Wars
No.
2.0 Reloaded.
Yeah.
No,
You know,
They know we're recording this right now.
Okay.
They
It's
know
like,
that.
yeah.
No, the thing is that they might not know. It's they can gather all the information, but they don't have. I don't think they have crazy technology yet to be able to filter that much information. They just know give us all this universe of information, and the database they have. I think they don't have enough quick queries to be able to filter all that. I think it's very difficult.
Well, filter it in real time
In
or
a-
filter
no,
it at all.
No, filter it in a reasonable time.
Well, here's the thing, and I know this story. I'm not going to name names, obviously. In 86, Escobar and their labs, I knew somebody, really reliable source, somebody that was trained with the Green Berets, and that person, back home, that person was in a unit which they would go to the Amazon jungle and they would destroy cocaine labs. 1986, technology has evolved a lot. That person told me that when they were in briefing rooms, before they would get dropped off by a helicopter in the middle of the jungle, they would have GPS pictures of every lab in the Amazons. 1986. They would have all that information.
When your cell phone was in a fucking bag and
When your cell phone didn't even exist, it was a brick.
yeah,
It was a 5-pound brick. They had pictures and all kinds of stuff.
right.
So if they had that back in 1986, can you imagine what they have right now? So I do believe they have all that information. The thing is, jurisdiction. And
But what?
if you get involved with everything, we're just gonna start World War III.
Well, but what does jurisdiction have to do with anything when you have the technology, when you have the capability to do that?
Oh no,
from here.
it's easy because when Bush was in the government, Colombia was one of their big allies, and the FARC, which is the major guerrilla organization they have in Colombia, they lost a lot of people because of Bush, because they would have Black Hawk helicopters, M4s, the same camo the United States had, and they would have all the technology. They would bomb all the places, and there's actually pictures online I can show you at any moment of the leaders of that organization. They were all getting caught. They were all getting shot and blown up. They had that technology. The problem is that since there was a lot of communism in South America, it was hard to find allies that would be able to do something. Amazon's is a little bit different because we share it with Brazil and Colombia, so territory is a little bit different. But in Venezuela, the only way they can do something is financing a group of people, right? Under the table, because the United States can go there in less than 24 hours, take control of the country with the Marines and anybody. But
what does that do?
It's crazy. Which I believe eventually something like that's going to happen.
Why Venezuela and not another country that's oil specifically, just like we did in the Middle East?
But do you think we're not going to have reliable, different source of energy other than oil?
We as in who?
I mean, as in the world for the most part, on the people on the, let's say, the West world, the part of the West, like America, right, for the most part.
Yes, but
Japan and China are gonna have before it even come close.
I want you to put this. I want to put you in perspective. If you close your eyes, to the north, half hour, you have a beautiful beach. To the west, 2 hours, you have deserts. To the south, you have mountains and ice. To the right, you have more beach, more places where to go. You have really nice communities, and then on top of that, you have oil.
Yeah.
There's many things you can do with it. There's a lot of gold. There's a lot of minerals back home. There's everything. I was actually with my wife watching a video of Venezuela, and it's not that I was gonna cry, but I was highly upset. I was like, such a beautiful country.
Nostalgic, yeah.
Such a beautiful country, and it's just ruined. Yeah. Ruined. For nothing.
Drugs and power.
For nothing. For power about what? Because if you think about it,
for power to have power.
For power to have power and ignorance, because they're not prepared for it. Because, man, and
I don't think anybody's ever ready for absolute power, but that's the goal.
In the United States, there's corruption.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
But the thing is that the corruption that happens in the United States is creating legitimate companies and stuff like that to gain money. They use their contacts, but they're still doing something to create money. The corruption that happens in South America is, I'm going to take everything you have. Armed robbery, first degree.
Because there you have, for example, USPS, I think, competing with UPS. And so you have big competition within like private companies and the American government, like trying to have their own businesses like be better than the other.
Everybody's bidding all the time.
Exactly. So you have fair competition, and the government's also competing. And if you have a bad administration, probably a company won't do as well, and they will have issues, and it settles itself out. But if you start like expropriating business, which is expropriation, is a term that we use to basically going around and saying, okay, this is for the government. For example, we need to build this highway. And so the American government comes and says, oh, we need all this houses taken off because we really need a highway here. Something that we really need to better the speed in which people travel. So in the case that happened in Venezuela, that was, taking too far. So they would go into big businesses, like big mineral companies that would mine resources from, let's say, mines on the south, like ore mines of different minerals. And basically, they would go in and say, okay, now we own this. Like, now we own this. We're going to put our own people in, and we're going to produce the resource ourselves. Like, we're going to run this business, and you're out of it. And we're going to pay you this amount. We pay you this arbitrary amount. So you
get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out. We can tell you, we'll pay you this.
Check this out. When Michael Brown happened, right? National Guard was deployed, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine if the National Guard, the guy in charge, imagine there was no looting or anything, right? the National Guard, the highest ranking officer would have walked into Quick Trip and would have said, "Everybody, get out. This is not your property anymore. You, and you, go ahead and get whatever you need, whatever you want." And they just take your property like that, your business.
Yeah.
No explanation, no paperwork, no
That's
nothing.
it.
Just they just want it.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Like
Not legally.
and that's called something I think is
Right.
very related to nepotism. So it's like, oh my god, I have like a second cousin over there. Like the guys in power, like I have a second cousin over there. So they go to the store. Hey, this store is like not yours anymore. This store is like my second cousin's store. So they just put them in, or they start putting like friends of them in.
Or your second cousin runs Phillips 66
Yeah, you're just
right on the corner.
literally, yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, we don't have Quick Trip anymore. We want this is part of Phillips 66 now.
Right. You
My
can take
cousin's
the
gonna
fucking
run it.
signs down, and this is our shit now.
Yeah, literally just
but,
like that.
But also, and then it's like, oh my brother runs like the for example, X department, X governmental department. So I don't know any specific cases, but basically they start putting the family in like very high positions of power, and with the amount of income we have in oil and the oil business, it's just insane amounts of money. Like they didn't know how to spend it, so basically would just pile up the money themselves and pretend.
Just like Escobar, they didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't have a way. Like Escobar in his last days, Pablo Escobar, he had millions of dollars that he could not spend.
Because he didn't know how to put it back or what to do with it, or
Yeah, and he was being, there was no other way. Wherever he put it, they were gonna take it. Switzerland canceled their bank accounts now.
But Pablo Escobar, I believe personally, I don't know, I don't have any concrete facts, but I believe Pablo Escobar is not even close to the crimes and the things that have been committed with the Venezuelan government, and we don't see it right now because it's contemporary history.
Not
It's like
anymore.
right now. It's happening right now, so you don't see it. Give it like 10, 20, 30 years. Same as Pablo Escobar.
when
Like
people start telling
you
stories.
think people talk right now that CIA worked with Escobar, but you think people back then knew that? So just give it a couple of years and people start seeing back then and being like, oh, all this was happening under our noses. And then people see it as fact. Like, oh, how couldn't we see it?
Right.
People just...
Pablo Escobar even stated before he was killed that he was gonna go to Venezuela and try to, run the show there
Because there's so much things...
because they were gonna protect him.
Oh.
And he was in
Yeah.
charge. He was responsible for over 2,000 deaths.
Oh, I feel like that's a low number.
Over 2,000 confirmed.
I feel like, yeah, confirmed, as you say, I feel like worldwide, and
Because there's direct and indirect types of crimes
especially
too,
from the drug trade.
and especially from the government as well, because all the decisions they make, maybe taking. Let me put it like this: for the government to make a decision, the hate they create, because all they do is create hate. All the people that have been killed because of that hate, that's part of the plot from the government. In our hometown, we live pretty close. There's over 15 kidnaps per day.
Per day?
Per day.
It's more... Everybody knows somebody that was kidnapped.
I was almost kidnapped one time. I have a few real life situations
And
from school.
yeah, I also had one, but it's hard for me to know because it was so strange for me that I don't know if it was real or not. Like I
What
felt I was
happened?
driving somewhere and like people were coming towards me and I was about to be kidnapped. And
How
then
old were you?
Huh?
How old were you?
I don't know how I wasn't aware if it was real.
No, how old were you?
Where I was, if I'm not mistaken, 18, 17. It was like not really long ago, like 4 years. And it's just hard for
So
me.
it doesn't even matter what the age is.
Yeah.
No.
They'll just fucking...
Sometimes
Yeah.
they even do a
Yeah,
survey. They're like, hey, how do you think we did?
No, and then we have a story that just happened right now. Let me bring it up. The two very famous baseball players back home, very famous, very professional, and
One of them played here.
yeah, one of them played here, and they got killed.
Do you know?
I'll pick him on.
Go ahead, finish your story.
You tell the story about Pedro.
Okay, great. So what happened is that now they're calling it an accident. So they were supposed to be traveling with with their baseball team now, but they decided to be on a civilian's car, and the news source is saying that it's their fault for being in a normal car instead of going with their team that they got killed. So they're blaming the fact that they were going in the city in normal hours, well, in some hours, driving a civilian car, and they got killed, and it's their own fault for doing that. You know how crazy is that? So the thing is that this is what happened. So there's a thing that happens back home to start. So basically, you're driving on the highway, and there will
Who's
be
doing the kidnapping? The cartels or just?
No, I mean
or
people from the favelas, basically.
just people from the favelas.
Police.
Police.
And police as well. Like there's a lot of different people that go out and kidnap. And police do it, and there've been stories of like people within the police killing each other, kidnapping each other by accident. Like things of that sort happening. Like you kidnap.
Luis Castillo and Jose Valbuena are the two guys that got killed.
You can go through us. Yeah, exactly. You can tell that story as well. So what were the numbers? Which are the names? So the thing that happens, what I was saying, the thing that happens is that when they're on the bridge, they would throw rocks, like I'm saying, huge ass rocks from a bridge to the highway, basically, and they would be driving their cars, and they would throw the rock, and basically, it will fall in front of you, and you would hit it, and they would come and steal this thing from you, or like get you kidnapped, whatever they desire to do. And so in this case, people just tend to brake, and they crash, but they tend to brake so they don't die, and they take up. But in this case, they didn't.
It's a way to stop your vehicle in the freeway,
Right.
like the interstate.
Right.
And then it's dark at night. They stop your vehicle, and then once you have that accident, they just take everything you have.
And you.
So in this case, they didn't have quick enough reactions because probably fell right in front of them, and the car crashing against a huge rock that people.
Right.
It's a hard hit, and I've also heard a story of having an orange with spikes inside, and just put it within the highway. So basically at night, so you'll be driving, and then you would hit the orange, and your wheel would just go flat, and they would just come right out from the woods, and they just take everything from you, or take you if they don't want. Either they take you or they take things from you. They take your car for sure. They're gonna take you. They might just throw you there and take the car. And you hear people of stories like that. That's how it is, and you get used to it. So when you come here and they tell you, St. Louis is the most dangerous city in the States.
It's a kindergarten. They don't really know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay,
and that's how I feel.
So this is how I want to convince people of how it's not really as they think. You get killed when you are getting yourself into issues. Like you're getting yourself into trouble.
Stop right there. That's called routine activities theory.
Yeah, please explain that.
So the triangle of crime, right? So the triangle of crime talks about the motivated offender, the opportunity, and the lack of a capable guardian. So basically, when you have somebody that wants to do something, right, when they have the opportunity, and when there's no actual consequences, or the possibility of a consequence is lower,
minimal, yeah.
It all complies together for the crime to happen. So if you're always, drug dealing, and your actual activities have to do with criminality, you're more prone because you're given the opportunity, and the motivated offender will always be there. That works in the United States, basically.
That works, yeah.
Because, you live in a nice area. You don't have to go to a bad place.
Right.
The possibility of something happening to you is pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
If you go and get involved with something, some bad people, the possibilities are pretty high.
So
In Venezuela, basically, regardless of who you are, where you live, you're a prime victim. You are, like, literally. I've been victimized. He's been victimized.
Regardless of class.
it's random. It's random chance. That's why I feel lucky. I feel more lucky that have not been that affected back home than actually moving here in the States and doing all this. Like, I feel that was a bigger luck for the fact that
you were able to move here rather than.
No, because over there it's like everything's so random that you just feel lucky when something happens to somebody else, and you're like, that didn't happen to me. I feel bad, but I'm grateful because I wasn't affected and my family wasn't affected.
Like, if this was back home, we'd probably be spending the night with you.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. No, we would. We would
There's
be
no,
crazy
there's,
going.
there's no.
And for people who are listening,
Parents incentivize that. Parents incentivize
2:45 in the afternoon when we started this. I mean, we're.
Oh, yeah, no, time doesn't matter,
exactly.
but we're spending the time.
Hey, if we're after 6, like 6, 5, 6:30, 7, I wouldn't go out. Like,
when the sun goes down.
I wouldn't stop in a red light if I'm outside.
No,
after
nobody
6.
stops at a red light. There's no police stops back home.
No.
There's no such thing as a DUI, traffic stop, anything. Nothing. The police, they make checkpoints. They make checkpoints to stop people in case something happens, right? If you stop at a street light at 6 p.m., the police will tell you to move. Keep on moving.
Mm-hmm.
They will question you why you stopped. There's no such thing as speed limit. If we were, like, back home and we had to go back, we'd both be locked and loaded if we had it, because now they have gun control. That's another thing.
Yeah, they took guns from the civilians.
So it's even harder now to defend yourself, right? And we be driving super fast, like 60 and a 30.
So I've been aware that I've been followed before because I'm pretty precautious of that. And
You're supposed to be, yeah.
yeah, and so when it's funny because you notice that people start following you at some point, and you start driving kind of crazy. So I back home I tend to drive.
You probably drive like shit here too.
No,
huh?
I control myself. I control myself because of the insurance I'm using. Root.
Right.
Big shout out to Root.
He's trying to get a sponsor.
No, dude, I'm helping you out, dude. You're gonna get some ads out of this. No, I'm
Hey,
kidding.
I'll tag him in the fucking comments. We'll be good.
Either that or you get sued. No, I'm kidding. You'll be fine.
Take that too.
Hey,
I'll
money's
press
money,
good,
either
and
to
I'll
you
press
or
his
to
good
them.
press, right?
But it's money.
No, I'll help him out. So I wish I would have my referral code. So I was paying Geico like $280 for full coverage. That's ridiculous. Holy crap! And so
How much were you paying?
$280
'cause he's brown.
a month.
Because he's brown.
I'm telling you, dude. Like, look at it's ridiculous, man.
Driving while Hispanic.
Racial profiling.
Goddamn
That's
right.
insane.
DWB.
And so yeah, let me do this quick ad real quick. So so now that the Root, the application, what it does, it tracks your time driving. It tracks the time you're driving, like at night or a day. It tracks your speed, your turns, and it checks how likely you are to. They use algorithms to see how likely you are to crash, and given that, they're gonna offer you like a way lower price. Like they're gonna offer you a price given how good you drive because they know you have a less tendency to crash. And so my insurance went from $280 around that to $84 a month.
Jesus Christ.
And I paid a thick 6 month, and they made like a $200 discount from the whole deal. So I ended up paying like
routine activities to see how what your habits are.
yeah, exactly. And that's good. That's a good way to keep track of things because it's very random. Like you might be driving fine, and then some random guy just crashed somewhere, and then you get that cost because okay.
So what you're telling me is you have some fucking fake ass insurance and you're paying money to a company. That
Let me
doesn't-
make a side note real quick. Not all Venezuelans are like him.
Yeah, I'm a very particular person. I believe that's what I've heard. I don't see myself like that.
Every person that works on computers is.
Yeah, they're very. It's cool because they have a very lively personality.
We're gonna call him R2D2.
R2D2, yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
I think R2D2 is a little sassier than you, but you just make less beeps.
Okay, every now and then I'm just gonna. Beep.
But yeah, man, it's just crazy. Like, I went to church. My best friend, he's a lieutenant in the military. John
Here or
Martinez.
there?
Here.
Okay.
I don't know if you know him. He trained at St. Charles MMA for a while.
Mm-mm.
He took me to church one time while I was in school. His church actually moved to Ferguson, and driving there, we passed by Ferguson High School, right? And I looked at it, and I'm like, holy cow, man, what a nice high school.
Right.
You know, it's beautiful.
And aesthetically, looking at the area, it doesn't look like it's run down and, you know.
Well, let me tell you something. Even the city looks good.
Yeah.
Because, you know, back home, we're used to things that are not as nice.
Favelas.
We went to a private school together, and our school did not have half of this stuff those kids have. So I was telling my friend, it's sad.
It's mentality.
Because
it's not so much what they have. It's just like the mentality, the box they put them in.
it's sad because people are
bro.
very,
That's what
very
it's, yeah.
ungrateful, and they're ungrateful because they have been spoiled. Listen,
Because they don't know the other side. That's why.
and it's not a race. It's not a race
It's,
thing.
it's empathy. It's understanding.
It's
the
not a
other
race
side.
thing
Yeah.
because I'm gonna tell you this, man. You're 16 years old. You want to buy something? You can go work at Taco Bell and go to school.
You don't even have to work at Taco Bell. You can go door to door, knock on motherfuckers' doors. Hey, can I mow your lawn today? This is my rates. I have a lawnmower. I have gas.
Yeah.
Or hey, can I borrow
Are you
your
making? Are you
lawnmower?
saying that because we're Hispanic, or are you just saying
Yeah,
that?
dude, like that's
Because that's the
offensive,
shit I used to do.
Okay,
because I'm
okay.
fucking-
We're testing you.
But it's true.
And because you're both Hispanic, that's exactly why I said that. But continue.
But it's true. You know, like my wife, when she was 16 years old, she bought her first car. In Venezuela, there's people that are 4 or 5 times our age, and will never have the chance to buy their own vehicle because of the economy.
Yeah, this makes sense to them.
People get married
Fine
so old back home because they don't really have their shit together to move away from their parents' house.
Right.
It's so common for somebody to get married at the age of 30 because they still live with their parents. But it's because if I was to rent a place like this back home, I would have the money. So the only way I could rent is moving into the slums. Do I really want to do that?
Absolutely not.
No.
Not when you can leave. Not when you have to leave the comfort of your family, your safety. Everything you've ever known. Why leave to go somewhere where I might not survive supporting myself living there, or I might not survive getting through the night.
You can work here at a bar and make enough money to survive and go to school.
Absolutely.
And
if you're working enough and you live on your own, you can go to fucking school for free here.
That's another thing. People say there's no free school in the United States. Damn right there is.
Yeah, there is.
There's 3 ways to get free school in the United States. One of them is military. You join ROTC. You get 4 years of free school. They pay you $400 a month cash for you. They pay for your books. And then you have to serve for 8 years. However, starting salary for the military is $55 a year. As a lieutenant. So...
Right.
You have job security. The second one is being a full-time athlete with a full scholarship. My wife did it. And then the third one is academics. Go ahead.
And in contrast, in other countries, you're made to go to the draft. You're made to go to the army, and you don't get any benefits. You're just like,
no,
you need to do this because your country requires it.
It's your civic duty. I have family that lives in Israel, and every single one of them.
2 years at
2
least.
years minimum.
And they don't complain. That's how it is. You need to go through that.
Complaining? What's complaining? You don't have a choice.
There's no option.
It is the lifestyle. There's a complaint is not even registered.
Let me put you guys in perspective a little bit. My best friend, and I don't like to brag or anything about him, but
here we go.
Love to.
He came from low middle class family here in the United States.
Right.
Didn't have that much money, single parent household. He doesn't have the money to pay for school, so he joins the military. He finds out he loves the military, right? And it's like being an athlete. You got to wake up 3 days a week, 5 o'clock in the morning, go do PT. It's just like a full-time athlete. So it's nothing bad.
That's hard.
But if you're an athlete, that's what you do.
Yeah, it's life. That's all you've ever known.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so 4 years of school, he graduates college with 2 degrees. 1 in criminal justice, 1 in military science, right? Mm-hmm. He's a second lieutenant right now. He has all that training. While he was in school, he wanted to have an internship, high level, right? So he applied and he got the only person within the last 8 years in St. Louis to get chosen to do a federal internship. He went to the Pentagon during the summer. So he sacrificed part of his summer to go to the Pentagon.
Perfect.
They gave him a top secret clearance. Not a lot of people get that.
Right.
Nowadays, and I'm not going to mention what institution, but nowadays he's applying for some federal jobs. He's 23 years old, right? He has a full-time job. They're picking him up from the feds, like high-level stuff, to work. Their average age is 28 years old or 30 years old. And at the age of 23, he's already making it.
By putting in the work.
No loans, no nothing. He just bought a 2018 GMC truck, brand new. He's paying for it, making the right decisions, Right. But he was a hard worker his entire time. So what I'm saying is, if you make the right decisions and you're a hard worker, regardless of where you come from in this country, you can still make a change. You can still make a change and you can still go far with what you want to do.
It's the American dream.
It's the opportunities. The thing is that people think that us immigrants come here thinking for an American dream as, I'm going to be an actor in Hollywood. No. My American dream is that at the age of 23, I bought a brand new 2018 car.
And I can drive it and I can have
and I work for it, and that's what I have. I can provide for my wife for everything that she wants.
Right.
And she needs.
Right.
She gets what she needs when she needs it. And she gets what she wants when I can. But, I try to spoil her as much as I can.
Absolutely. Because now you have the opportunity.
Exactly.
That is
absolutely
the real American dream.
Exactly. Being able to work hard. You just give me the tools and I'll build whatever I want to build.
Right.
It's up to me.
Right.
Yeah. People think the American dream is sitting in a couch and then getting all that money. No.
Watching football, eating chicken wings, drinking beer with the buddies.
That's the result.
That's an American Sunday, boys.
Hey, what day is today? Saturday?
Saturday's for the boys, but Sundays is for football.
Yeah, I dig that. There's no problem with that.
But I will tell you what, though, that's the result.
Right.
Being able to have that Sunday.
It's great.
You worked hard.
You earned that.
You know, but here you go. That's your Sunday. Sunday fun day.
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful Sunday. You enjoy your family, and you make back friends. You make barbecue, and that's the spirit. Like it just brings your spirits up, keeps your soul happy and alive. And it's just hard to see that in many parts of the world. That's not something that you see. And at least back home, even though we have the poverty and all the things going on, people are still, people are still cheered up. Like I think
because you can always find joy and happiness. Like as bad as things are, if you're with the people you love,
it's a culture, man.
Exactly,
it's a culture we have.
Exactly.
And even though poverty was striking everybody, people still were happy to be with their family, and they didn't like people back home don't value money really as much more than just having connections, having friends, having common.
Because from what you guys have told me, I mean, other than a class level, money doesn't matter. Because at any point in time, somebody can come in and take that from you, and at the end of the day, all you have left is the people that you love. And it seems like everybody knows that. So like you have to have that bond with the people that you love, and you have to have that mentality that no matter fucking what, we're gonna be.
And to make it more unbiased, we come from a school where the owner of the school was an American lady, and she had 36 families that she was giving scholarships to. 36 families, but we only had 700 students.
Right.
From elementary to high school. So that's a lot. That's a big number compared to the amount of people. In my class, there was only 60 people. So half of my class, we could say, was given a scholarship, right? And there was high-level people going to that school as well. The president of Coca-Cola, his 2 kids went to our school worldwide because Coca-Cola is it's a Mexican company. So every day you would see 2 SUVs parked outside.
Did they say names?
Yeah,
I mean that's public information.
Okay. No, yeah. Andoni Gutierrez. He's a cool guy. He's a chill guy.
He was in your class, right?
Yeah,
you know him?
My class. No, yeah, chill. He told my class. Dude, I remember nobody had an iPhone. He had a freaking iPhone popped out. I'm like, dude.
His brother had a BlackBerry before everybody had a BlackBerry.
Dude, like he has the fucking greatest phone, dude. I was looking.
Every day there was 2 big SUVs and a motorcycle waiting for them. Have you seen the movie
it was fun stuff,
Men on Fire?
Absolutely. That's exactly
okay. That's
same
exactly, but more high profile.
Right.
2 big cars.
Because fuck Mark Anthony.
Hey, and I have some. Cool, I have a quick story from that. So I remember he was showing us around. I remember I went to his place once. It's a very nice place. But the cars, they could speak. Back then was like, you could talk to the cars, which was like cool back then. And he would show like scratch on the car. Oh, I hit it with a bat. Or oh, this is like bodyguard. I was playing around with the bodyguard and like annoying them. They have a couple bodyguards because they're
flicking the bodyguard.
And that, again, that's his reality, and that's fine. That's how he lives because he had the chance of, and that's how he has to live to
The kid wanted to go to the beach. His dad bought a big ass boat.
His dad bought the beach.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They wanted to go anywhere. They would take private airplanes. Also, from the government perspective, the daughters of the pilot that used to fly Chavez airplanes, Maria Victoria Reyes and Stefania Reyes.
Oh, I love Stefania Reyes. She's amazing.
They're the daughters of the guy that flew for Chavez.
Yeah, big shout out. But again, I'm not blaming them. That's their parents doing their stuff.
Fuck everybody.
Fuck everybody too, but you can't blame them.
I mean,
but here's the thing. There's a fine line though.
I mean,
and this is one thing that I do say.
They're great people. Yeah.
They're not it's not their fault.
Yeah.
But once you grow up to a certain age,
you're a product of your environment until you're old enough not to be.
Yeah, and you're old enough to know what's going on.
You need to create
and man, it happens at work. If you're getting something from somebody and you're using that person, the day that it's not working for you, don't say anything about it. Just stay undercover, because you were benefited from that, and now you just all of a sudden you don't support it anymore.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
But we did meet a lot of high level people.
Yeah, they're on our school, and you hang out with them. I mean, I don't pay attention to that stuff, so I didn't know that until like later, right?
Until later in life,
right
when you're old enough to realize what money is.
No, like right before graduating, I wasn't like, I don't hear like gossip. I don't really.
What was the guy's name?
Like I don't know any of this gossip.
Shigi.
Pedro knows all the gossip.
Remember Shigi?
Shigi, no.
Curacao.
Atkinson.
Atkinson and
Shigi. Dude, I love that guy. He's amazing. He's great, but I don't know if we should mention this.
Just say it, man. I don't care. Hey, just for the fact, dude, we're already down a full bottle of rum. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, I'm not
at this point.
Okay. I'm not gonna say it. I love the guy. He's an amazing guy. But
I will say.
Okay, no, I will say. Don't worry. He happened to be born in a family where his dad is being searched by the Interpol. that's how it is. You know, that's how it is. Like his dad is born. Like people, Interpol is looking for his dad because
He's a big narco.
Big
Right.
narco. Yeah, and that's
Right.
how. And he's a great guy. He's friendly. We get along with him. I still keep in touch with him. I mean, I haven't rode with him in a while, but he's.
I wouldn't keep too much in touch with that.
Yeah, I have. Okay, we have mutual friends. That's about it.
Well, your circles connect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
But I'm to his benefit. But I will say this.
I'm looking
He's
for
a cool ass dude. Huh? He's just
Yeah.
cool.
But I will
He
say
provides,
this
dude, he
again.
provides. Nah.
You
way.
would see
No way.
every afternoon the president of Coca-Cola, his kids getting in 2 SUVs with 6 bodyguards and a motorcycle, and then you will see 2 SUVs with 6 bodyguards and a motorcycle for the narco guy, which would pay his school with cash and stuff like that. You know, in the same
Right,
school,
right.
and the same one as
Yeah.
the pilot's daughters.
Who had more money? That's the real question.
I think they didn't really like mind. I don't think they really like cared about it. It's just like.
But that's what I
You
think.
think so? I
of.
mean, I
But
don't
you,
know.
you know what's funny
The
though?
who's got
You,
more
you know
money,
what's
Narcos
funny?
or Coca-Cola?
You know what's funny? They both sold coke.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey,
Oh, dude, I wasn't aware of that.
two of
That's
the most
all-
powerful drugs in the world, both of them named Coke.
Dude, that's nice. You know all the gossip. That's cool. I like learning the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I mean, if I would hear that, I wouldn't judge them because they're amazing guys. And
Well,
it's
you,
just
you,
like, I don't like
can't, you
judging.
can't judge somebody based off what their parents
I
did.
swear, I feel like only God can really judge. Or like,
Only until you have.
you can-
I'm gonna say this from a
You can have
perspective,
your opinions, really.
professional perspective. Working in the field that I work in,
Yeah.
I didn't really get too much. Like, I work with murderers, rapists, all kinds of stuff.
Right.
I never cared about it until I was exposed to the actual court proceedings. When I was with them and I only saw a piece of paper that said their first, last name, and their charge,
You get detached.
you don't really care because you don't see it. When you see it, that's when you really realize what's going on.
Right.
He might be a cool guy, you know. His
Nice.
dad sold a little
Yeah.
coke here and there. But until you don't see his dad telling somebody to cut somebody's head off, you don't really judge.
Right.
I mean, where did they learn it from? Really, like, it's like by example, I guess. They just see that that's normalized in their life, so they start
Social
doing it
modeling.
themselves. And again, you cannot blame them. That's the same thing that happens here with the racial divide. That that feel that African Americans feel that they need to stand up and create rage around because somebody got killed by the cops. For the most part, they got killed because the cops just want to. He values his own life.
That's a
and he wants to go
7-hour
where-
topic, I
That's
believe.
I
That's
think
a
I
7-hour
honestly-
topic.
I honestly would.
But I will say that a lot of it is not even African Americans. A lot of it is the media.
And
The media is actually the one
no,
trying.
I also don't want to go into that, so just get a tangent.
You're
from that.
you're gonna have to
Yeah, I could talk all day
grab
about
some
that stuff.
tape and pull it around your ADHD and keep it within
Yeah,
what we're
absolutely.
talking because we're gonna be here for 4 days.
Dude, I can talk for like fucking.
Okay.
But I
6
have,
in the morning.
I have the research material, and if you ever want it, I can give it to you. I'm a
Mhm.
very, very research-oriented
Meticulous.
person
You should be. Yeah, good stuff.
because I don't like to talk about things that I cannot prove.
Right. Right.
You know.
There's no point.
But
There's
I
no
will,
point.
I will tell you this: less than 1% of police encounters involve force. So the average police officer will never pull his gun out of his holster
That's good.
His entire
I like
career.
hearing that.
in his entire career.
I like hearing that. That's how it should be.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and that's
That's how it should be.
that's kind of something I think about all the time.
According to Donald Black in his research, American sociologist, he taught at Yale University and other places.
Good, like
But-
that stuff. Good stuff.
I mean, I've had plenty of interactions with police officers, and I've had bad ones, I've had good ones, but 99.9% of every interaction I've had has been pleasant. Whether that's because I'm white or I'm being respectful or whatever, but I don't tell people about those. You know what I'm saying? We don't hear about. Nobody goes out of their way to tell you, oh man, I had a fucking great day today. But when somebody's got bad fucking news to share, they want to share the goddamn bad news.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, who the fuck? This person cares about me. I can call them and tell them I had a fucking bad day, right? But generally people don't fucking go out of the way.
And when you are on the receiving end, so let's say you have a bad thing going on and you call me. So I think for the most part you should be receptive. If I'm not receptive and empathetic, that's gonna create it's gonna lower your view on other people. So you're gonna start becoming a more evil person and feel like people are manipulated. You know what I mean? So
I have a story.
So empathy is like a key in understanding like racism and everything that's going on around understanding other people and getting in other people's shoes. It's always gonna communication and empathy will always create like an understanding and like a level ground to match things up. That's why in Venezuela, for example, the people that are in the favelas are not. They're not the same color. They're not the just black people, or they're just brown people, or just this kind of people. No, they're all around. You see white, Asian. I mean, the Asian origins, white origins, African American origins. Because we have a lot of immigration before, and everybody mixed up, and we're all mixed up. And that's when you understand and you come here that people just hate the black. I mean, people point fingers for the fact that they simply don't understand. So they need to understand where people are coming from, and empathy, and just for the most part, and a lot of people just try to put the black community and keep them down by putting them like a roof. So a roof to which they can
only reach so far.
Yeah, exactly. For example, if you start saying like I'm not good at math or I'm not good at languages, like
labeling theory,
and that's what happened.
You label somebody so much that they believe it,
and that's how I started saying that in the podcast, saying that they told me I will never be able to learn English. And my parents, you know what? My parents, you know what they did? Instead of saying like, oh yeah, let's start giving my kid Ritalin, let's start giving my kid Adderall, because she was offering ADHD medication, which I'm taking right now. But she was offering ADHD medication, and they didn't take it. They didn't accept it because they said this is very strange that you can give me a pill to fix my kid. And they said my kid can learn English.
Yeah, they don't believe that back home. Back home, if you don't pay attention, they whoop your ass. Yeah. It's not about ADHD.
Well, and a lot of times
it's not blaming the brain. It's the soul that really like pushes you forward.
Well, and you guys both know Adam Meredith. You know, this is something him and I have been talking about recently, and he brought it to my attention that if you look up,
shout out to Meredith.
Shout out to fucking Adam Meredith and Outside Perspective.
You see the birthday thing on Facebook? I just put a comment, but I really like my heart like drew like 10 times when I saw that.
I love that guy, man.
It's beautiful. So he started like instead of his birthday asking for anything, he just put like a donation for autism. For autism. So that's good for him. And people should donate for that.
He's a great guy, man.
He's amazing. He has really good vibes. I tell you that.
Absolutely.
Let's spread out and get good vibes to people around. They keep spreading out good vibes.
And you know, when I started, it's not that I was intimidated by him, but I saw him and he would perform amazing. Like you know, he would be in Bellator and all that, and I'd be like, "Wow, this guy."
Greatness is intimidating, and, it's not fucking something to be ashamed of to say that.
Funny story, and we're doing ADHD right now.
Cool. That's what.
But funny story is one time we were rolling, and I put him in an electric chair. You know what that is? The ankle lock, and his knee went straight to the ground.
What you mean, like you were tying? Yeah. What? Can you repeat that again?
It's a leg lock, and then you pull you're in half guard, you do a leg lock, and then you pull him up, and you grab his knee, under his knee, and then you put it on the ground. Okay. It hurts your calf and your groin area. Super horrible. Yeah. But this guy, he's a professional.
A real professional.
Yeah. His knee went straight to the ground, and he looked at me and he smiled. Yeah. I have never been so intimidated in my life. From that moment,
by a man who's 150 pounds.
Man, no, he's pretty big though. That was right. That was before his shoulder surgery and all that. Right after Bellator, he smiled at me, and he was like, Yeah. So then he grabbed my gi and he pulled himself up. He ended up in my mouth. Man, he broke my spirit right there.
The sense of
think about punching somebody as hard as you can.
Give him your best fucking move.
And then he just smiles at you, and then he owns you.
Nice. But the more you do jiu-jitsu, I feel the more you reach the point where Adam Meredith is, and most of the higher belts are, a point of peace, like no ego. So you see them, and they see the world in a completely different perspective. It's amazing.
It's been fucking beaten out of you a million times.
But the thing is that you will never learn their full, capability, because here's the thing, when you first start, he's nice to you, you know, and then you get better, and he's getting better, so he's still being nice to you. But if you really push it, let me put it like this, you might be able to tap somebody rolling, but if you compete with somebody,
you might not ever fucking touch them.
Not at all.
Yep.
Just imagine, a guy like Tracy Taylor, putting you inside control. Have you felt that before?
No.
Imagine getting drilled to the ground.
Yeah, from every single limb.
And you're just sitting there. He did side control on me just to show the class. My back popped at every point. Yeah. And he looked at me and he said, "Why are you breathing so hard?"
We were, you know, I help out kids.
And Tracy, if you listen to this, your side control sucks. Not the bad way. It sucks to be under your side control. Okay. No, I don't want to disrespect the master. Don't instigate.
I'm about to edit these last 5 seconds out, and all we're gonna hear is Tracy Taylor, you suck at jiu-jitsu.
Oh.
That's great.
No, but
I might never be able to touch that gym again.
I feel
you
his
might not be able to walk again.
I think more than that.
Yeah.
I feel like his class more like spiritual and philosophical than it is actual jiu-jitsu.
His
It's so
jiu-jitsu
nice.
goes beyond physical. It's a
Yeah.
mental thing.
Absolutely.
It's a philosophy. It's amazing.
It teaches you how to live life.
Yeah.
Great
Beautiful
role
stuff.
model. You know,
It
and
is.
and before you start that, Tracy Taylor, I used to go to his class a lot on Sundays.
Mhm.
And a lot of times when I had a problem or something like that, I would ask him. And he would, address. It was weird because he would teach the class, and within the class, he would tell you, like, and
Right.
this is because that. And, like, you could relate it to your life, and you were like, damn, like, wow.
I watched and I actually sent the video to Tracy as well. I watched the video and I feel disrespectful not knowing the guy's name, but he owns one of the biggest gyms in all of Australia. He put like a 6.5 minute video
Neat.
up
That's pretty neat.
on YouTube talking about the benefits he's received from jiu-jitsu. And without going too deep into it, he essentially said if he could trade away his black belt and his school and all of his physical ability that he's obtained from doing jiu-jitsu and be able to keep the life lessons and the way he's learned to adapt to adversity and whatnot because of jiu-jitsu, he said he would do it in a heartbeat. He goes, I would never step on the mats ever again if it meant I had to give up the life lessons that I've learned
Yes.
to this point.
It's very rich in
You
the
know.
Do you
spirit.
know who Caio Terra is?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you watched his video, but he has a very emotional video. He's talking about when he got promoted to black belt. He won worlds, and he thought he was getting his black belt. We're talking about a guy that's probably half your size.
Yeah.
Pretty small guy. He used to
Yeah.
get bullied a lot. And he's telling everybody, like, how he was expecting to get it because he was ready, and he was beating all the good people in his weight class and all that. And he didn't get promoted, so he stopped going to class. It was a decision he made. Like, he lost interest. As a brown belt world champion, so you can imagine.
Multi-time world champion, right?
Yeah. So, actually, he won against Jeff Glover,
Yeah.
in
Shout out-
Metamoris.
Shout out to my boy Jeff Glover.
Yeah.
Oh, Jupac, Jutang.
You know him?
I love Jeff Glover, man. King of the Donkey Guard. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Him and Bill the Grill. Rice House beat Bill the Grill Cooper in Strike Force.
Anyhow,
Sorry. Tangent.
this guy, his coach tells him, all right, now that you're out of shape, why don't you go see and if you can actually compete and see where you're at and where you stand. So he goes there, he loses worlds, and he's at the podium, and his coach says, Caio, you don't train anymore. You don't know how to tie your belt anymore. He's like, what are you talking about? Look up and stand straight. So he puts the black belt around his waist. Dude, I'm getting the chills right now. Puts the black belt around his waist, and he says, look down, this is how a belt should be tied. And Caio starts, crying really hard. And he's like, why you give me my black belt now? With his Brazilian accent.
Yeah.
I don't want my black belt now. And his instructor said, Caio, if I would have promoted you when you were winning, you would have not relayed the same message. I didn't train you to be a winner. I trained you to change people's lives like jiu-jitsu changed yours. And I was afraid if I would have promoted you when you were winning, you would have not delivered the same message. And Caio says, it's not about how good you are in jiu-jitsu. It's about how good jiu-jitsu is for you. That's a deep message.
God, in my heart. And
God,
you feel it. You feel it.
And you know what's crazy? Nobody's going to understand until they do it.
Yeah, I feel something that people gotta go through. It's just a very life-changing
Adversity.
experience. Even if you do it once or
One
twice.
time.
I did it first time. It changed my life. I think, Pedro, you said how you ended up getting into a gym, right?
Yeah.
So I would like to be real quick on this story.
Absolutely. No, take as much time as you need.
So I remember it's a fun story because life just throws you things like hints. Like I feel like life just throws you hints of like this is something that you might be interested in. So I started school in Lindenwood, and I saw there was like they were like doing advertisement there for like St. Charles MMA. I don't recall. It was like an MMA doing advertisement there, and I was like interested. Like, oh, look at that! I got a paper and then forgot the paper, threw it away. It just disappeared.
What, a little flyer from St.
Like a
Charles
flyer,
MMA?
yeah. They actually go?
Shout
Did they
out
actually
Pedro.
go?
That was me, baby.
No way, really? Oh, dude, like good shit. Good shit.
Mike Rogers gave me. I might have a few.
So it was. So I was like,
200 of them.
oh, that's cool. I thought I forgot. I thought it was like me making memories. So okay, it actually happened. So I did that. Then I thought I was gonna go. I was like, I want to do this, and at the end, I didn't go because I met somebody, and life
Same here.
Time,
Same here.
time just consumes you, and you are in a different world, and time has no meaning, and it's fun. So I got different like priorities changed, and so when this person
You became single.
yeah, yeah. So no, priorities changed when I was with, and so when that stopped, then it stopped. I was full of debt. I was like, I felt like I bought a car and the car exploded, and like everything was just falling on top of my head.
That.
And I didn't have a place to stay in summer because I had plans of staying with somebody in summer, and and simply, the thing that happened is just I stayed with my sister on the couch sleeping. Like sleeping on the couch, my back was hurting. Don't sleep on the couch. I'd rather sleep on the floor than the couch. And I swear, after the first 2 days, and then the 5-6 days, it's bad. And so what happened is I just started. I was refereeing to get money to pay my debt, and I was refereeing like through snow, like rain. One time it was. Oh, I want to be quick on this. It was such a life-changing. It was such a life-changing experience being there. I was refereeing kids, like 6.
Like playing soccer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like soccer before. I started liking soccer when I refereed. When I started refereeing, because of the rules that around soccer, I just felt it was interesting. And other than going back and forth with the ball, it's very boring. The rules that go around it is pretty interesting, I guess. I mean, I made income out of that, so I had to enjoy it somehow.
Yeah, well,
if you enjoy
that's to be determined.
If you enjoy it, like holy shit, you're gonna have a bad time doing your fucking job.
Yeah.
I don't want to curse, but that's how it is. I was doing I was doing this kids, and and it started. It was nice weather. It was fine. I had like what I'm wearing right now, just one shirt on top of me, maybe a long sleeve, and suddenly started raining. Like there was no rain planned out, and misery came up, and it just started raining, and the temperature dropped like 20 Fahrenheit degrees, like just a crazy amount. It just everybody started freezing, and like it was crazy. And that's the experience of refereeing. So after that, I was refereeing a girls' game, and I was full of that. And I thought to myself, you know what? I think if I go like fight somewhere, I can like make a lot of money because I think I can get like $7,000 right away and just pay all my debt and just be free out of that. And so I went.
That's like 35 amateur fights to make $7,000.
Exactly. So I mean, I had such an abstract concept of like earning money, I guess.
And that would be like 700,000 hours of training.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the investment is pretty high.
All I had under my belt.
Starting fresh, shit.
Yeah, all I had under my belt literally was like 8 years of karate. I was like brown belt. I was like 3 months to getting my black belt from brown to black, but I just stopped. I don't know why, but I stopped. And so I just went there and I saw Mike
Garrett?
Not Mike Garrett.
Rogers.
Mike Rogers. Sorry for not remembering last name. Mike Rogers.
To you.
And I told him I wanna fight. Like I wanna start fighting. And I had like this experience and I wanna go to this MMA class. Like there was MMA class and I was like, I'm gonna go to MMA class. And I went there and I told him that. He was like, okay, cool. You did karate for X amount of years. So what happens if like somebody takes you to the ground? I'm like, well, I would
figure it out when I get there.
No, I started thinking like what would
Poke
I do?
his eyeball, grab his groin.
And then he told me do jujitsu. I'm like, what is jujitsu? Like, well, what's that? And I did jujitsu, and then I saw Mike Garrett, and it was the first guy I rolled with.
Yeah,
and,
I was there that day.
You were there?
Remember we sat in the back corner, and you rolled with Garrett for like 3 rounds.
Doing
And you were like, what? You're not rolling with me?
Well, because I was just sitting in waiting for jiu-jitsu to start. I got there early because I live 30 minutes from the gym without traffic, and so I like to get up there early so I don't have to beat the traffic heading back into St. Charles.
Yeah.
So I usually get there, 4 o'clock, whatever, 3:30, depending on if I'm fucking bored and want to go work out. And this is also why I started that 4:30 positional sparring class up there.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Dude, oh man.
I wish I could make it, man. My thing is I don't have a set time where I get off work.
Right.
I get off work at 5, supposedly.
Maybe.
And it's half hour away without traffic.
Right.
And there's traffic at 5 every day.
Every day.
So, it's kind of hard.
And,
but, I'm going to take all that stuff away and I'm going to start, coming back.
You should, man. You should. And just closing the story up, once I did that with Mike Garrett and I was rolling, dude, I felt that was one of my top life-changing moments. Like,
yeah. That's exactly how I felt.
It's not, you feel like love, you feel this, you feel that. I mean, love is an amazing feeling, and the different levels of love that you feel that just changed your world as well. But this was one of those moments where my life changed. And after that, like, money really didn't, like, matter. Mike Rogers said, $100 a month. I didn't care. Like I didn't listen. I didn't think of the money. The money didn't matter.
Like,
Just
cool,
like
cool,
People
like,
people don't get how much money, like,
and people tell me
you-
like that's expensive. Like dude, like this.
the abilities you're getting from
experience.
jiu-jitsu, it's amazing.
Wow.
That's like, okay,
I could give everything I have just to keep doing that. It's just
the
life changing.
the way I try and rationalize it to people is, how much money are you willing to pay to go to school? There's people who are willing to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year to go to school.
They wouldn't pay
To fucking get an education that you might have a job at the end of the day making $25,000 a year
And have the college life.
and have the college life, right?
And people want to go out
Quote,
Thursday,
unquote.
Friday, Saturday,
That's
and
bullshit.
spend money in drinks and eating and partying,
That's ridiculous.
but they think $100 a month, $120
To-
is too
to-
Too
much.
expensive. Yeah, too expensive.
To learn everything you can ever imagine about yourself.
In and off the mats. Yep.
Exactly. To really figure out who you are as a person.
Yeah.
I
You
very
understand
very
yourself.
rarely do you have somebody who does jujitsu and enjoys jujitsu that doesn't have an idea of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they show it or not, you know, you just you don't have a choice. You can't hide. You can't hide who you are as a person and what really is deep inside of you on a jujitsu mat.
And Justin, have you talked about this in other podcasts, like how life changing jiu-jitsu is?
Adam and I have spoke about it, but I speak about it all the time. I can't stop.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I have fucking word vomit when it comes to. I mean,
And you can relate it to any topic.
Yeah,
anything.
you can- It's very
Anything.
hard. It's very
And-
hard.
and
That's
check
what
this
I
out.
feel
When I was 10 years old, we were driving back to our house back home, and I had gotten into a fight.
I'm gonna put my jacket.
We had gotten into a fight right before, like a few weeks before, and I was telling my dad, like, "Hey, Dad, I really want to do jiu-jitsu. Like, you know, I think this is amazing. Like,
right.
I want to learn how to take people down and do all kinds of stuff." And he told me, "Oh, jiu-jitsu is only about takedowns. It's only about this and that. You know, maybe it's better if you do something else." I was 10 years old.
Listen to old pops.
And, you know, he paid the bills, so I couldn't argue against him. Dad, if you're listening to this, you know, it's your fault. I didn't start when I was 10 years old. When I got here, I started doing jiu-jitsu. It was so amazing how everything changed. My body changed, you know, physicality changed, my personality changed, everything changed. He started doing jiu-jitsu.
No shit.
Yeah. So now my dad's actually a blue belt back home.
No shit. So your parents still live back home?
Yeah.
So and so you've been here by yourself
For
so-
5 years, yeah.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Now the crazy thing is we have a huge office back home. Huge. He decided to tear down half of the office and
At the
make
house,
a
or-
freaking No, the office.
Okay.
Like the actual office.
Gotcha.
Make his own jiu-jitsu mats. Like he has people go there and he's working in the computer right now, and then at 6 p.m. all right, I have to go to class. So he has an instructor show up and people go in there and they roll and all that. That's life.
That's wild.
Isn't that life?
That's amazing. That's jujitsu.
With a shower in the office, with a big speaker, all kinds of training. And when I tell you it's big, it's like the size of our striking room, but it's all mats.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's amazing, dude. And so you've been doing jujitsu since pretty much as soon as you've been here.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, like about a year.
A little bit
or so.
before I came here, like I did it for a few months, you know.
Right.
I'm still a white belt. I'm probably going to be a white belt for a while.
Well, that's
It's-
one that's by choice because you took how long off?
Well,
About-
right now it's been a year because I mean,
and you've been back. You've been
Yeah.
back since then. But you
But-
also came back with how many stripes on your belt?
I should have 4 stripes, but
And
the
you-
thing is,
and you made a super power man move and took all your stripes off your belt.
yeah, they told me it was disrespectful to take him off. But the thing is, I don't feel like it's fair for me
Did
to
you
have
feel like
him.
it was disrespectful to the sport?
I can see-
to
I-
come back and have those stripes. Did you feel like it was disrespectful?
Honestly, no.
No,
No. I mean, I'm not a 0 stripe white belt, you know.
obviously.
And when I get in shape, it's going to be the same. You know, I'm still going to, you know, it's a little bit more. I know a little bit more than the regular white belt. But I can tell you right now,
Sorry, I went to the bathroom, guys. That's why you hear all the noise. I have a face to blame. It's me.
I can tell you right now that a white belt in our gym is completely different than anybody in any other place.
Anyway, well, and I mean,
You get tested every day.
every day.
Yeah.
'Cause
Even if it's just technique. You get tested every day, and there's no way to lie. No way to lie. My two favorite things in life are shooting and jiu-jitsu. You can't lie in either of them. If you're a good shot, you're a good shot. You can prove it with the target. If you're not, you're not. You can prove it with the target.
Right.
If you're good at jiu-jitsu, you can prove it on the mat. If you're not good at jiu-jitsu, the
It's gonna
match
show
right away.
Right away.
Yeah.
The only thing that you have to have in both, regardless if you're good or not, is being a good person.
Yeah.
Because you will get humbled really quick.
And I wanted to back up what you said. I feel exactly the same way as you. Like when I went to the bathroom, I heard you speak about how you told your dad to do jiu-jitsu. So I do exactly the same thing. I tell him it's a life-changing experience. Like it just changes your life. And I realized, when I realized when I was changing my life, it was hard to see it. I knew things were changing my life, and I was becoming more humble. But when I realized that it does change your life, is that when you, Justin, you told me your story of how jiu-jitsu, what it did for you, what it did for your girl, and dude, after that, like it makes my heart weak. Like I'm a very emotional person.
Me too.
I'm strong, dude. If you hit me in the face right now, I don't feel pain, man. Like I don't feel pain until nothing.
But you tap though.
Dude, I tap. I need to be able. Yeah, sure I do.
That's different. That's feeling survival.
Okay,
That's
Dude,
survival.
okay. No, but I honestly hate tapping. Like one of the times I got unconscious because I didn't want to tap.
Yeah,
it happens.
I don't.
Practice. Neil was showing a move and he went out because he didn't want to tap.
I'm humble on that note.
Yeah.
But I have a lot to lose. I need my arms and legs to work.
Right.
Yeah,
to live my life.
Yeah, I guess so. That's important, right?
But the thing, I mean, if it's more technical, he show you the choke.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, it's good that you went out, and I believe everybody should have that experience because it tells you how far you can go.
Right.
But I don't really have anything to prove.
No. You're there to get better.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
You're not trying to be a world champion. You're trying to be a world champion in life.
And good thing that you mentioned that. For me, I don't do jiu-jitsu to compete. I tell you right now, I've used jiu-jitsu 2 times on the streets, and it's worked perfectly fine.
Oh, good shit. Nice.
And both people
in the streets or in work.
in work, I use it every day.
Okay, I figured that.
And
Yeah,
I can tell you right now that Neon Belly is probably,
It's definitely not fun in the gym. I can imagine.
Yeah.
And I can imagine you doing it. Totally.
Especially
We
if
had
I
a
didn't know what to
situation
do
with a
on the other
guy,
side.
acting up really bad, and me and my partner had to take him down, and it was just smooth, man, because he used to be a college wrestler, so we took him down, and it was one
Past
motion.
the legs. Whoop.
It was just beautiful, man. It
That's
ended up with a
artistry in
knee.
motion.
It went. I landed right with my knee and grabbed the arm, and my partner looks at me, and he's on the same side on the other side, the same thing on the other side, and he looks at me and he's like, "Okay, that's good, it's enough," because it was
You
so
guys are about to
synchronized.
Split this guy in half.
We were like, "Wow, man, like it's beautiful," but I can tell you, jiu-jitsu prevents a lot of excessive force.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
You control the beast. You don't have to hurt it.
exactly, and that's something I feel. Everybody gives fucking Colin Kaepernick all kinds of trouble for everything, but he said one of the most real things I've ever heard in my entire life. In order to
Fuck
be
the guy. Sorry.
Hey.
No hate, sorry. But,
no, you
I don't
and,
really
and, and you know, and,
I
and,
really
we, and
feel
we can
for
get
him.
into that too if you'd like. But
Yeah.
No, that's not. We're talking
Okay.
about beautiful things.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
unicorns.
beautiful things. My
but
bad.
this is the biggest point he's made to me is, in order to cut hair in the United States to have a license, or I shouldn't say in the United States, but in most states, you have to go to school for 1.5 years, 2 years. To be a police officer, you can do that in 6 months. Do you think you can learn how to defend yourself fully and control a situation in 6 months?
Let me answer that in a very describing manner.
Okay.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100% definitively no.
You cannot learn how to shoot in 6 months unless you shoot every day for 4 hours a day and you concentrate on that.
4 hours a day, twice a day,
There's
every day.
there's no way you're gonna learn how to do something that fast. Especially you can do that 4 hours a day for 20 years and you're gonna learn how to be a world champion.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But
Maybe.
But it's not something. You can learn how to do
Definition.
jiu-jitsu 2 hours a day for 6 months. You're going to be decent, but you're not going to be the best. There's maturity within
Right.
the art.
Right.
Same thing with legal procedures, criminal
Right.
You're not going to learn.
You can't be a black belt in anything in 6 months.
And you know
or
what?
a year.
And
or
people
2
people
years.
tell me that I'm wrong, but I always say I highly believe people in the field should have degrees and should have more higher level education,
Yeah.
and the field
Absolutely.
should promote like, why am I not getting 2 hours a day of actual training?
Every day.
Why? Yeah.
Mhm.
Why? There's some agencies that actually pay for that, but I should be getting at least 1 or 2 hours paid that the institution knows that I'm using for that for physical training. And I'm not talking about running a mile and a half.
No, talking about
Because
actual
mile and a
field
half-
training or
I grab your mile and a half in 12 minutes, put you under side control. Tracy Taylor will put his plate on you, and he will put you in side control, and you're gonna be gassed.
okay. Let me take your mile and a half, and let me have somebody shooting bullets at you, and then you take that factored in with the adrenaline and everything else that's going on. There's obstacles to run over, jump over. You're in an actual field. You're running through.
And then you're struggling with somebody.
Yeah, somebody who's fighting back. That's not picking up 400 pounds on a fucking deadlift and dropping it to the ground.
No.
That's not doing anything. That does.
And then a
abs-
30-second rest or 2-minute
Because-
2-minute rest.
Because I'm 140 pounds and I can deadlift over 300 pounds, but my very first day of fucking jujitsu, 15-pound Kelly D'Angelo put me on my fucking face.
Kelly D'Angelo.
And
I
there was
love that
nothing
girl.
I could do about it. There was nothing I could do about it
She's
because she knew exactly what I was going to do, where I was going to
And
be.
the people that don't like it, they say, "Oh, a girl beat you." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know
She
what?
will beat you too.
You know what
She's
she did?
great.
She put me on my back and laughed at me. She put me on my back and laughed at me because there was nothing I could do. And you know what she said to me? Can't rest there. Can't rest there. I can kill you right here.
Yeah.
And she's the one resting.
Yeah, she's the
She's the
resting.
one chilling out just on top,
Yeah.
waiting for you to make a mistake.
And I'm fighting with every inch of my fucking life to get a girl that's 3 inches shorter than me, and
Yeah.
I'm fucking borderline a midget, and
And not only that, all your human instincts
are telling me to survive and do this.
and they're all mistakes for jiu-jitsu. First thing
Yeah.
you want to do is push out,
Exactly.
arm bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stick your head out, trying to get out of it, choke.
Yep.
Kick your legs and all that. Pass your guard.
Yeah.
Mount you or whatever.
Yeah, you're on top of me. You have me fully mounted, and I have both my legs up in the air, and you're connected to your fucking ankles under my butt. Now I don't have my hips, and I can't move fucking anywhere.
And yeah, she's like the size of basically my chest.
Yeah, she's
And
she's
I-
5'3",
and
5'3", 115 pounds.
we were doing the MMA class and up like being standing it's fine, but when she takes you down, like she just went for the ankle lock, I'm like, oh shit, I'm messed up.
Yeah.
That's
And then
deep
just break your
waters.
ankle. Like if
Deep
you could just
fucking
right away
waters.
break your ankle, you cannot walk anywhere. That's how intense that is. And you have the feeling of like if she could, and if it would be like maybe a couple of years back then, like a few thousand years back then, she would just break your ankle. You cannot walk anymore. That's about it.
No, not a few thousand years. That's today on the street.
Oh, today, well, you could.
If if somebody grabs your ankle, that's
Yeah.
you tap.
talking like
you
on the
tapping
street,
as
yeah.
you die.
You're tapping
as
as-
you
yeah.
die.
Let me tell you guys
That's
a story.
instant,
I
yeah.
was at a float trip, and
That's
two
how
guys
intense
were
it is, yeah.
arguing, and I was having an argument with my wife. And it's funny, I was, we were having a few beers, and for some reason we were just talking, her and I, private. And then she sees the two guys arguing, and, tents flying to this side, everything's smashed. Two guys, a woman, and a little girl. So, the guy, one of the guys walks away. The other guy kind of like pushes the little girl, and then he gets sucker punched. Boom, really bad. Nose split open. The guy gets knocked out, right? He recovers. He then starts fighting and punching, ground and pound. And when I tell you ground and pound, it's just dry. Poof,
Boom, head stuck to the ground.
poof, poof. And my wife, she tells me, you're going to have to go there, And I don't really like to get involved with anything at all. Like, I don't do that.
Well, that was an
But-
extreme case. Right?
Saving somebody's life.
Yeah.
The guy was, actively grabbing the man by his neck and just punching him. Just, bomb after bomb. So I walk over there, and I tell the guy, hey, dude, it's enough. I first start, try to talk to the guy. Hey, man, it's enough. You're done. He's done.
Right.
The guy's like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker, just hitting him highly intoxicated. And the guy's face was being smashed to the ground so hard, he wasn't even turning. It was just straight punches.
Stuck.
It was horrible, man.
Right.
I grabbed that guy in a rear naked choke, got my hooks in.
And there's nothing he can do.
No, he went to sleep.
Yeah.
And then his wife was like, stop choking him. So I had to kick my leg out and push my arm out and get up, thinking that she was coming towards me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Both guys are laying down on the ground. The guy's nose was split open, so when you're choking somebody, that blood pressure starts, kicking in.
Convulsing.
I was
squirting.
full of blood everywhere, so it's dangerous because I don't know if he has any disease.
Right.
Thank God he didn't. I'm
Right.
clean. But the people that I was with the float trip, one of them, she's a police officer. She fought in guns and hoses. They didn't know that that's what I did.
Yeah.
There were big guys that were like bodybuilders and stuff within the group. The guy froze. He's like, "Holy shit! I didn't know. I didn't know you could do that." Because of the nature of the situation, that rear naked choke has probably been the hardest one I've done in my life. I know it went in, but it was just natural instinct.
Exactly.
And I was coming from the best moment of my life. I was working out 4:30 MMA till 7 p.m. jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then rolling and all that. I was weighing 240. I was in good shape.
Because at that point, it's not something that you're under. You're not like, okay, well, now I do this and I put my arm.
No, you don't
here.
think about it. You don't think about it
because it's such a learned move, and you have everything done. Not done. You have everything down. You know exactly what to do, and you've been under so many high level pressure situations. How many times have you rolled with Carlitos, who is, he's a world champion at purple belt and is, an Olympic athlete.
Pan Am's,
Pan Am's world champion,
MMA fighter,
an MMA
which is
fighter.
Totally different from rolling with just a jiu-jitsu guy.
Absolutely, and
Carlitos, Kyle, Big Neil,
right.
Ben Roy, all of them
guys who are not just world class athletes, but just guys
war dogs
with iron fucking will that. When they're on the mats, it's not to be on the mats. They're out there to win. They're there to inflict fucking damage.
They're like a freaking shark.
Yeah. You passing his guard is an insult to him, and he's gonna get you back for that.
And if you pass it, he gave it to you. Because in reality, there's no way.
There's nothing you're ever gonna do
to pass that
guard.
And so they're all humble. Like Carlitos and I were pretty good friends. He's a personal friend. He even came to my wedding.
Right.
That's how close we are,
Right.
And you see Carlitos, he's a guy with such a great personality, super cool guy. When I was dating my wife, he was giving me advices about it. That's how close we are.
Because that's the bond jiu-jitsu brings.
But man, that guy on the street, I told him, and he speaks Spanish, and I told him, if I ever see you on the street, man, and we're face to face, you're gonna get shot.
Yeah.
I'm not even negotiating with you. The guy's a good wrestler. He's a good striker. He's a good jiu-jitsu fighter. It's going to be a silent kill.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to I'm going to go like, hey, mother.
There was a kid the other day in the gym, Cameron. He goes, you know what, Carlitos? How does it feel knowing that you've been trained in jiu-jitsu your entire fucking life just to get shot by a poor skinny white kid like me? Yeah.
And one thing people don't really talk about it, and I have experienced it because both situations. I'm a really big choke guy. I love chokes.
Right.
If you know me rolling, that's what I do. And the reason why I do it is because jiu-jitsu for me, it's survival, and for the streets in my profession.
Right.
I can't go everywhere and just break people's limbs.
Well, because there's guys.
I know how to do it. I learned how to do it, but I'd rather do something that will neutralize you, and then is reversible
because
too.
There's guys you can break their arms and they're gonna come at you.
That too.
Uriah Faber.
Absolutely.
So when he fought Mike Brown in WEC, he broke both of his hands in the first round, and he threw elbows the entire fucking fight.
Well,
because there's
Forrest
guys,
Griffin.
Right? Exactly. You break these limbs. Okay, I'm alive. I'm walking. I'm coming. Let's fucking go. Ain't nobody stopping you when you cut their hair off.
Nope.
No. There's nothing you can do, pal.
No
Sorry.
way. I mean, you can, like Tracy Taylor says, every move you make is a transition, and you're going for something else. Like competing, you get points. Like in the process of submitting somebody, you're racking up points, right? Yeah. If it comes down to it, if you need to, you can go submission by submission until the point that you stop the person. But I personally like chokes, and people that don't do jiu-jitsu do not understand the power that you have. When I look at you, I can already tell how I'm gonna choke you out.
How many times do you have a conversation with somebody and you're just looking at them like, I could fucking choke you out right
every day, man.
Every day
people be talking shit.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at
not even talking shit. Just like, hey man, Pedro, how you doing today, bro? I could fucking
And they're wearing that uniform, and they don't realize that that uniform that they're wearing, man, is their worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't stretch and it doesn't break.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I've grabbed people by their uniform and pick them up.
Yeah.
And I stand them up right here, right next to my face, and I look at them straight in the eyes. And the look of a human being that
You've broken their will.
when you see those eyes, yeah,
That's
of course.
fucking great, man.
When
That's
you when
funny.
you grab the guys on the ground and you grab them by their shirt and you pick them up and you look at them straight in the eyes, and you know they don't really know, like, imagine closing your eyes and just something picking you up like a
you're gonna
freaking,
do it. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
like a crane,
It's like a falling dream.
you know.
Yeah,
Exactly,
it's
but
a reverse
reversed.
falling.
Yeah.
Reverse falling. You just, whoa.
Yeah,
Both
and then
feel
you
very
just
good.
look at that person's eye. You know, it doesn't break, man. I've had situations where somebody's having a seizure,
Right.
and we need to put him back in the bed, right? And medical staff is there. We're all helping him out, and we grab him by the uniform. The uniform doesn't break.
It's designed not to.
Exactly, it's designed for long-lasting, cheap, and all that. So I look at the guy, and he has that perfect V-neck cut, and it looks just like a gi. And I'm already thinking about that bow and arrow that's gonna come in,
That cross
that
collar.
cross collar choke.
Oh, that baseball bat.
Oh. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they don't really know. I didn't know when I first started, and you can ask Neil. He choked me out 50 times in 5 minutes with my gi,
Yeah.
and I couldn't stop it.
There's nothing you can do.
And you know, when people laugh and they say, "Oh, you got choked 50 times," yeah, and I'm proud to say it.
yeah.
I'm highly proud to say it
Yes.
because that's how I know I'm at the right place.
Right.
But then you feel jiu-jitsu it's more effective on winter. So if you will have like a tree front on winter, like you would have like maybe want to
Yeah, if a motherfucker's got a coat, but hey,
You got a
that's why
coat.
we have no gi.
During
Yeah,
yeah.
That's why we have no gi.
No, he's good.
You know. So, hey, gis for the winter, no gis for summer. I'll
Yeah.
whip your ass all year
And you know
round,
what?
goddamn
You know
it.
what's my favorite thing for the wintertime? Hoodies.
Hoodie. Oh boy.
You grab that hood and it's so thick that material, that bow and arrow is sinking.
Oh, you're done for. You're done for. It's not gonna be fun, pal.
There's no marks. You don't even know what's going on.
No, absolutely not.
It's just beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, boys.
And you know what? And we're ignorant. Like,
Yeah, we're very like.
you know, I've been doing it for 3 years. I'm still a white belt. We don't
nothing.
know.
All three of us are white belts.
We
Yeah.
like, it's like, you're not even part of the iceberg. I wanted to say the tip of the iceberg, but we're not even there
No,
yet.
We're swimming outside looking like, damn, that's a fucking nice
Is it-
iceberg.
Yeah, that's a little nice ice cube right there.
Yeah.
We don't even know.
Not even close.
I rolled one time with Mike Rogers, and during my best time, when I was in the best shape of my life.
And you guys are about equal size. He's a few inches shorter than you, but
Yeah.
other than that, you guys are the same size.
In order, and you know, he's got all them years of experience doing every single martial art.
You know he got his black belt in 7 years.
Hmm
Yeah.
He's a master.
And he took
And-
4 years off.
And in the old school, it was tough.
I bet.
It was tough.
I bet. Well, because that's when.
The originals.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, he tapped me with wrist lock. He was on my side. He was on top of me on side control, and he tapped me with me framing on him.
Yeah.
It was just crazy.
It's a whole.
Just by moving his body 2 inches, he was tapping me, and I'm like, what?
From
What
pressure.
is this? Just pressure.
Just pressure.
What the fuck?
No
is
more to
this?
put you. What? But that's like, you know, Mike is now, you know, 6'1", 6'2", 250, 260 pounds. The heaviest guy in the gym is Wright's house, and he's 6 foot, 165 pounds, and he's the heaviest guy in the fucking gym. You know, everywhere you move, he is completely stuck. to it.
Rice House is the type of guy. He's a doctor in jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
He has.
He's a doctor and a lawyer and a philosopher in jiu-jitsu.
The man has.
Yeah.
He
He's
has
got three
eagle
degrees.
eyes.
He's got 3 degrees.
And
in
you know
jiu-jitsu.
what? He's blessed with the gift of breaking things down to a point that you would never know.
Yeah.
Like, he can tell you something. Like, when he's teaching a class, the little detail he gives you, you're like.
Will change the rest of your jiu-jitsu.
I remember there were classes about shrimping. In what school do you go to that they teach you for an hour how to shrimp?
Right.
But that man could break it down so much. You know, tucking your elbow and all that, and framing
over
the.
exaggerate and get
Yeah.
out there.
It's just amazing, man. Like, I'm getting really, really sad right now because.
Because you miss it so much.
Yeah, man.
Well, let's get off jiu-jitsu because I kind of feel like we're we're getting a little
Oh yeah,
sidetracked.
I was
And-
just
and I-
thinking.
and I don't-
I love it.
And as much as we love jiu-jitsu, I don't know how much everybody who listens.
No, but I mean-
I was gonna tell you pull out the mats and we could roll. I thought you were gonna say,
Yeah.
okay, let's roll for a little bit, and I'm like, I'm not wearing my
No, but-
spandex.
Well, one thing
I might have some.
I feel you guys like love jiu-jitsu a lot, but I also like the introduction of Muay Thai and boxing into that. So
Yeah.
the whole MMA thing I think is pretty
Well,
nice.
it's just the place
I
that
like
we're
it.
at.
interesting.
Yeah.
If we do a nice transition, I can say that jiu-jitsu relates to the topics that we were talking about, because if you work hard, you can achieve things.
Absolutely.
You know,
Like,
just like we
absolutely.
were talking about, and socialism really doesn't work, and all that, because in jiu-jitsu, just because somebody has good skills doesn't mean you have it. You can say all you want, Mike Rogers' friend or student, but you're not Mike Rogers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You have to work for your own,
Right.
and you can do it. You can make it.
Yeah.
And it's just like we said, like going to school and working, doing jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, judo class. Everybody's so open to helping you out. So it's all about, life and working hard. Like I was talking to my wife, 2018 was a really hard year for us. It was tough. It really measured how much we love each other, but we're close and they're really good. The end of it is bringing some good stuff for next year.
Good.
And the only reason why it's happening is because we both humbled each other, and we're both, making the right decisions. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I believe that's the biggest thing. And, something changed in me, and in part, it's martial arts that made me change that, but I've been in a mood right now that I want to promote really good vibes and decision making to my peers.
Yeah.
Like, for example,
because all the energy that you bring around yourself only improves you, or negatively affects you. Whether it, like I said, all the energy, good, bad, whatever, it surrounds you and it engulfs who you are as a person. If you're with people who are constantly complaining about, oh fucking Fred's got this and I wish I had that, but it's bullshit because his parents helped him get this and they put him in that situation. Like, you're not going to have a fucking positive outlook on anything because all you're intaking is negative. So how are you supposed to produce things that produce good energy, or how are you going to radiate good energy when nothing you're taking in is good? It's, the same concept. You can't have $1 million body on a $1 menu diet, right? It's these small little things that translate into all fucking aspects of life. It's just depending on how you fucking look at them.
That's why I think it's strange when you see people that seek money for the sake of money, just money for.
we were talking about it on the way here.
Yeah. People don't
It's
realize
very strange.
it's they don't want the money. They want the lifestyle that the money brings. Like, if you can live,
If they wanted the money, they'd be having a really big fat savings account.
right.
They want the
Exactly.
items that come with it.
Exactly. They want the items that come with it. The brokest people I know, 90% of the time, have the nicest fucking shit. They're in fucking debt and they don't have anything else but
Absolutely.
these material items, and they're fucking so worried and upset about other people. Oh well, I have the fucking newest iPhone. I got a brand new ass car, but people still don't fucking like me.
Trying to show a life they don't have,
Exactly.
where they belong to.
Exactly, and and I think social media plays a big part in that too.
I was just gonna say that
because people I talked about
they do
this.
it for the pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that fucking Saturday morning envy. You wake up, you sat at home all fucking Friday night by your fucking lonesome, felt like a loser because nobody fucking texted you.
Hey.
And you wake up Saturday morning, you see your Snapchat story, your Instagram story, you see all these fucking tweets. You check your Snapchat, motherfuckers were partying at the club last night. Oh, I'm at fucking this fucking club seeing this DJ.
Okay, but I feel like you gotta empathize with them because up to a certain point, I do the same thing. You know what I mean? I have like the latest phone out there, and I have like the fucking Samsung watch.
But the thing is, for you, that's kind of like who you are.
No, but I feel like it brings you up. It makes you feel like I'm making it. So for example, I've heard like some people, some rich people travel in first class, even though when they didn't have income, they travel in first class just to get the mentality of I need to, this.
Okay, I get it, but what I'm saying is, what do you do for a living?
I mean, I'm a software engineer.
So I would assume that somebody that's in that profession would have the best devices.
Right, because you are on the know of the trends. You have to be up on the trends, and this is what you do for a living. But the guy who's fucking working, 40 hours a week or 25 hours a week at fucking Walmart or whatever.
No, not only that. Like anybody that's working 8 hours a week in anything, even though it's computer related, you might have like people working 8 hours a week just doing Excel sheets and making like, computation. That's what they do, and the other day, it just doesn't extend out of that. Like it's not like something you had to. What were you saying before that?
Anyhow, for example, my biggest passion is the criminal justice field.
Right.
I love it.
Right.
You see that I will have not the tactical stuff, but like the best gear within. Like I will have a good pair
shit.
of boots.
That's good stuff. Nice. That must feel good.
Like
I
have
best shit out there.
They give me my stuff from work, but I still have my own handcuffs, the way I want them. They have my name, stuff like that, because that's just who I am.
Right.
I'm not trying to show something I'm not. That's just who. Since I've been 15 years old, all my Christmas gifts have been stuff related to, they feel like, if it's cargo pants, boots, stuff like that. So I have the latest stuff within that. But I'm not the type of person, if you see my Instagram, I haven't posted a picture in years.
Right.
I don't show a fake picture. And I get happy for your successes. Matter of fact, when we started talking about your podcast with Adam, you can tell them everything we talked about. I was like, dude, that is so amazing.
Yeah.
Like your story was crazy. And not only did I talk to you, but I talked to Adam. And I know it's a project you guys are building, but I want to support you because you supported me being part of the audience.
Right.
Listening to your
Absolutely.
podcast, I felt supported. It's an honor for me to be able to, record this podcast right now.
And that's the first thing you said to me too, like right away. You were like, "Man, I would love to fucking sit down and talk with you."
But I didn't mean it as podcast. But I'm saying
just to talk.
Just
and
to
I was
talk.
like, "Fuck it, yeah, let's go, let's record a podcast."
Yeah, and you immediately said it, and then you were like, "I want to talk about Venezuela," and I said, well, there's only 2 Venezuelans in the gym right now. Let's bring them over.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
But I want to be devil's advocate on that all social media usage, because I feel that
coming from the programmer, keep going.
Yeah,
right. Coming from the devil himself.
No, because I also I also feel like the fact that you're showing yourself as a person. You know what I mean? It's like I see some people just posting on Instagram, and I mention like stuff out. I'm like, dude, that's so cool what you're doing. You're like, check it out, like doing some snowboard. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Or just hanging out somewhere. I'm like, this is a shit what you're doing, pretty cool. And it's just, I think it's a way to create an image of yourself to a bigger audience or a bigger world, so people know you.
Absolutely.
But the point is not to get it over your head and start like showing things that really you don't have. You're just like making people think that your life is something that it's not really not.
But you're always going to have those people who want to project the image of having stuff that they don't have, or they're somebody that they're not, because this is who they want to be, and if other people can think that they are that person or that thing, that validates them as that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like for example, I work with murderers, rapists, serial killers, all kinds of people that you can ever think of. Believe it or not, some of the nicest people I've met in my life are murderers.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter who you are. But the one thing, I don't care what you've done in your past. I don't care,
That's a beautiful message, man. That's very interesting. Wow.
It's weird. It's weird to think. And
crazy.
For example,
they're not understood. That's the thing.
No. That's not what I mean precisely. What I mean is that
explain, please.
As long as they're real and they're honest, I've had some people that they try to portray something they're not. If you're honest to me with whatever you do, I don't care if you do it or not. I will respect you because you're 100% honest.
Right.
Now, if you try to fake something and be something you're not, regardless of what you're trying to fake, I'm not going to like you personally because I don't feel connection with a person like that. I'm going to be the type of guy that I'm going to be like, hey, man, you know what? Whatever you're doing, I don't like it. That's not good for you. I'm going to let you know. You might be pissed at me right now, but in 10 years, you're going to be happy.
Right.
Because I told you. That's the type of guy I am. 100% real at all times.
That's how it should be, man.
I don't care if you're pissed at me, if I tell you your girl's an asshole or whatever. But if I didn't tell you, I'm going to feel bad with myself.
Exactly, because that is the true definition of a friend to me.
And then,
I've always been the type of person, no matter what, no matter who you are, I'm going to speak my mind, my opinion, because I feel like it is disrespectful of me to you to not tell you how I feel.
Very important.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I think you're fucking up, you're my best friend in the world, even if you're not fucking up and I'm completely fucking wrong, I'm going to tell you I think you're fucking up.
But at least you have that
feel.
point of view, you know, hey,
right.
somebody told me I'm fucking up. And then this guy's telling me I'm fucking up. If there's two people that are coming from unrelated sources,
right, one really cares about me, this person doesn't fucking.
But they're both
me.
telling me the same thing, and they don't know each other. For some reason, they're both telling me that, I should probably check it out and see what's going on.
But at first they hate you, and then they realize slowly, like, okay, maybe he was right, and they come back like, hey.
Only those that have an ego will hate you.
You're right. You're right.
If you're a humble person, you're willing to listen.
You need to. It's way better to forgive, dude. Like hatred, I felt hatred so hard. It's just very tiring. It's just very tiring. You feel so tired for so much hatred, and when you forgive, just like things get out. You know.
Well, once you realize that life is reactive and your plan has to be too.
Yeah.
You kind of start to forget about that stuff.
I wanted to mention something real quick. I remember Pedro. That's a good thing you talked about. You said that you think you in your line of work, people should get like a certain amount of hours that you would, for example, practice shooting or practicing something that you think would be improving of your work, right, Pedro?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's the environment in which we work in my field. Like in the field, most of the technology fields, that's how it is, and that's how we make better and better technology. And I said, you guys, I think, should work because to create better and better ways of improve the way in which you work, basically. If you make free time in which you can be creative in what you do and how can you improve it, then you'll start like showing the message around. That's what we do in basically in this area, like in the
area. The species of man, you know, I say man, men, women, whatever, in between, you know, it's 2018, but
yeah.
We're creators, we're conquerors, we're survivors. Like, we have to have that in us. And if we're confined to a box and told, oh, this is all you can do, you can't do anything else, and you can't explore, you can't create, you can't do all this other stuff, you're killing yourself as a person. You're killing yourself slowly but surely.
And you're conscious enough, to realize that you're hurting other things. So you're conscious enough to be like, maybe this is hurting like this amount of like animals or this amount of force, and it's bad for all of us. You know what I mean? Because animals don't think that way. I mean, animals don't think that, oh, maybe this will be hurting other animals. They act by instinct. At one point we stopped acting by instinct and we act like we sit down and we think things.
Premeditate.
The lion hunts, the gazelle runs.
That's a very big difference of understanding like thing around you and just realizing that you're doing wrong to the world in a bigger picture, higher than yourself. Even though you're suffering, you would be able to realize that things are happening and you can sacrifice things to go through that.
You know,
animals won't be able to do that for the most part, unless they're a family.
With what I do, just for the record, I work with inmates. Whenever I have to discipline a person, hey man, I'm 24 years old. You know, I'm a grown-ass man.
Right.
Yeah. And my inmates, they're all adults. They're all grown-ass men. So why would I tell somebody to pull their pants up? I'm not their mom.
No.
Right.
You know, even though it's their rules. But
you tell them that? You tell them like, hey dude, it's the rules, like you can do whatever you want, but it's the rules. You gotta pull your pants up.
A little bit different than that.
Yeah.
Right.
You can communicate.
Right.
But I tell you what, the one thing I look forward all the time is for accountability. That's one of the biggest things I like. For example, let's say you do something really bad. I see you doing it. I'm going to ask you, hey, Mr. Bricker, did I just see you shaking that bottle? If you tell me no, there's no question about it. I'm going to be like, are you sure? Nope. Okay, go ahead and step in. Lockdown. And I'm going to max you out. You're going to have a rough time because you're going to be humbled. Right. Now, if you said, yeah, PJ, you know, I really screwed up, man. My bad. I know I screwed up. You don't even have to tell me. All right, man, just don't do it again. And that's it. Nothing happened.
Right.
I'm not even going to put you on lockdown or nothing like that. Why? Because you have accountability. Now, if I see you doing it again, you're gonna get maxed out.
Right, because you played me.
You know what I'm saying? Because you played to my emotions. Because I gave you a chance. I don't really put my emotions at work, but mostly like you try to play my mind. You know what I'm saying?
Fair.
Like, if you say, yeah, I did it, and then you do it again, I'm gonna max you out, right?
Right.
Because you already know there's I'm looking for the accountability in the individual, which is one of the biggest things that we're lacking. You know, everybody says, I'm not good for this, man. They're free casing me. But what do you do? Well, I was kicking on the door, slamming my chair. So you were doing something. No, but it's his fault.
So somebody made you do that?
Yeah, there's a guy we took to trial, man, and he was guilty. And then when we took him back to sentencing, when they asked him if he wanted to say something, he wanted to blame his mom. You know what the judge did? Gave him more time for disrespecting his mother.
Yeah.
He was being honest about it.
He was disrespecting his mother.
Oh,
like saying like
he's putting his actions that he's, you know, for the crimes that he's committed because his mom did.
His mom stood up, and I thought it was going to be a big incident. So, you know, we all got really alert.
Right.
She stood up and she was like, Your Honor, my son was given everything. We come from a wealthy family. He's never done any work in his life. He needs to go to prison.
See what it's like.
He keeps doing everything. I bonded him out after the first case, and then he decided to commit more crimes when he was out on bond. So the judge gave him more time. And
good.
She said,
I guess.
Because of you disrespecting your mother,
and the privileges she's given you,
you know,
yeah.
and it's just like, you know, man, there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of injustices as well.
But you think there's a way to solve it, like just putting them in prison? Because I've heard of countries that they just put them on a separate, like, little world where they're just gonna do like a small farm community, where just make their own food. They make their own food. Their farmland. They live on the quarters. And they have no check. They just do there. They just live and do actual work. They make their own food. They live there, and that's it. They have their own community for a certain amount of years, and then they'll be able to be going out into society. They have like their own little community, and I just think the prisons we have right now is not the solution. And I stopped looking at the amount of people that are inside prisons, but I'm pretty sure it's still a high amount.
Yeah, there's there's a lot to it. It's a big science. Again, that's a topic for more podcasts, and that works for certain type of people. Like there's people incarcerated that
have never committed a crime.
Yeah, and there's people incarcerated that
have committed more crimes than anybody who ever walked on this earth, and they're going to do 2 years.
And there's people incarcerated as well that they're just crazy, like they can't control it. Literally, I don't know if you guys have dealt with any crazy people. I have. It is not what people think. It's unbelievable.
Tell us tell us something you've experienced from the inside.
Okay, what do you want to know? Like a
Dude,
heavy story
About
or
a crazy person? Yeah.
Well, one time
Time out. How much time have we done?
Yeah, what's
2:29.
We've been
Okay,
like,
we're good.
Okay, we can do a 15-minute.
Yeah. Hey, I'm good.
Okay, so we were taking a guy. A secure move is somebody that has to be with 2 officers and restrained at all times because of his behavior.
Right.
He could be violent at any moment. This guy was a secure move, and we were taking him to a hospital to be released. He didn't have any charges or anything, but he was just crazy. We can't release him to the public, right? And we can't keep him incarcerated. So they sent 4 of us to take him to the hospital. The guy was talking to himself, like he would look right and talk and then look left and talk. It was just crazy, like, and he would speak a different language.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it was crazy. You know, the guy, obviously he smelled horrible.
And he understood everything. He was speaking languages to himself and understood everything.
And you shouldn't put him with the other prisoners. He should be somewhere else.
Of course it's not.
He should be completely somewhere else.
Of course it's not.
From that.
But we took, he was on a black box. We took all the restraints off, and the guy, he had to dress out in the hospital's attire, and the guy says, "Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out!" So I'm looking at the people that I'm working with, the other officers, and I'm like, are we going to make him change, force him to change or what? And the senior officer there, he said, "You heard the man, get the fuck out. Let's get the fuck out." We all walked out of the room, and the guy just changed and he gave us everything we needed. It's just, it's different. It's weird. You need to be a professional to be able to fully work with them. On another time, I was removing a person from a housing unit. he got in a fight. And while placing him in the other cell, we received a radio call for assistance in a cell close by. And man, that day I had to call my father on the way home. I had severe allergies. I couldn't breathe or anything. I'm walking to the other cell, and I hear a radio call. And the radio call says, of course, I'm not gonna disclose, everything.
Right.
But the radio call basically says it was an attempted suicide. Usually the supervisor calls 911. Knowing the officer, he called 911 immediately. Like, he asked for 911. The windows are kind of tall, kind of high, so I can see it from my height. So I'm walking in, and I see the floor from the top window before we get to the cell door, and I see everything red on the floor. This is weird. When I see the window, man, the floor was full of blood. I've never seen so much blood in my life. So remember what we talked about a few moments before about routine activities, the opportunity, motivated offender, and lack of capable guardian?
Right.
So this guy, he tried to commit suicide 4 times. The officer that was on duty, he just came back from being deployed, so he didn't know the guy. And that inmate had came off a suicidal plan 3 days before. So basically, it was razor day. The guy took the razor, broke it, and he opened his nutsack and pulled his testicle out. And there was blood everywhere. You could see his testicle in his right hand. And I arrived to the scene, and I'm like the second guy there. And I asked him, like, the fuck are you doing?
You stopped and like, this cannot be happening. Like, this is not real.
No, I mean, I already have adrenaline because I'm dealing with the first guy.
Right.
And it's in the same place. Like, imagine walking less than 20 feet. And you just see a guy sitting there with all that blood saying, crying for help with his testicle in his hand. And I tell him, the fuck are you doing? Like, and he says, what do you want me to do with it? Throw it on the wall? And then, we're like, where's the razor at? Of course, we can't penetrate the cell without knowing where the razor is. His answer is, I swallowed it. The guy swallowed the razor after he cut himself.
So he died?
No, he survived.
Holy shit.
He's fine now. He's got a fake testicle. But the crazy part is, the smell of the cell when we opened it was like iron. I can still smell it right now.
He just had an iron sack.
Man, it was all that blood. And I tell you what, the guy was sitting there, and he was saying, it's that little girl that keeps telling me to kill myself. I can't do it anymore.
Holy shit.
That little girl needs to go away.
He's just trying.
You're just schizophrenic, and they put him with prisoners. You shouldn't do that.
No. He's by himself, obviously.
Oh, okay. He's by,
yeah.
Still, like, you shouldn't be. In which environment, like, what environment can you put a schizophrenic guy? Like, should he just die or go crazy around? Like, what are, like,
it's
tough
just,
reality?
I'm not a mental health provider, but it's just amazing, man.
I like that answer. I'm not a mental health provider. I got a question. Do you like your job? Because that sounds pretty messed up, but it sounds like so passionate and interesting and like.
It's
like
got its up and downs.
Like putting order, like, in things and like trying to keep people like. In good order. Like,
do you feel like you're a more productive member of society because of what you're doing?
Question. Yeah. It's a very important question that makes you like feel like part of the world around you. Like,
I feel very involved. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that happen on the news that, let's say, over the weekend I see, and then on Monday I'm to work and I see the people.
Yeah.
I feel that a lot of people don't realize how much power we have.
As a society or as an individual?
As, like, people that perform my duties, we have a lot of power.
Okay.
We get to decide when you eat, what time you eat, who do you see, when do you have visits, if you have a visit, if you use your phone, where do you sleep, how do you sleep.
That's not healthy for me. If you do that to me, I would go crazy. Personally, like, I would go crazy. Like,
but a lot of people do.
When you
I
use
would
your
go
phone.
crazy.
No, a lot of
be
people. Yeah, a lot of people. But I'm saying, like, you see all that power you have. If you put it on the wrong hands, it could go really bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's why my thing is I always go for fairness and equality and consistency. Every day is the same speech.
Dude,
Nothing changes.
I want to give you a huge high five. And good shit.
That doesn't mean I'm a pushover, though.
No.
If you push the limits, you're gonna get it.
Yeah,
right.
For sure,
you know, I put somebody in a cell for 12 days. Only 15 minutes a day to go out and take a shower.
At least you got the shower.
at least, depending on the day.
Right.
For 12 days, that person was the most respectful person after he came
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And I hired him as a worker.
Humility. What do you mean?
Yeah, after that, if you show me that you've changed, I'm going to
I'll
work
give
with
you
you.
a second chance.
Yeah.
Because that's what
Oh, really? Is there a
that's
lot?
what like
I wanna-
that to me
wanna ask
that's what the prison system is about. Is being able to get a second chance.
Is there a lot of second chance opportunities there, like for prisoners?
Not like it should be.
You know,
to me, that's what I think
In
it should be.
yeah, I have a big project. The thing about me is that I have a degree and I went to school for that. So I have a little bit better understanding than some of the people that I work with,
Right.
because there's not a really high standard on, what you have to do before you get hired. But I can tell you that I personally have changed a few people. For example, there's a kid. I moved him from his cell because he was being really quiet and weird, and I was afraid he was going to commit suicide. So
that's very worrying. I hate when people.
I reported it,
It's a weird feeling.
and I kept talking to the kid, and one day he was sitting down watching TV, and we let people go out for church, and I told him, "Hey, come here. You're going to church." He's like, "What? I don't go to church." "You're going to church." Just like that,
Yeah.
And not because I'm a religious guy or anything, but the people that go to church are usually older. They
have the wisdom.
Yeah, a little bit. Even though they made a mistake, or they still have a little bit more wisdom.
I don't think making mistakes and having wisdom necessarily coincide, because some of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life are some of the biggest criminals I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I tell them all the time, don't let 30 seconds of your life determine how you live the rest of your life.
Exactly.
They're just accidents that you have in life. And that you need to
Some
learn
of
from
them, we can't generalize.
Yeah.
So I told the kid
with
to,
anything. You can't generalize anything.
Yeah, I told the kid, go to
yeah.
church. He listened to me. He went to church, and a few days later, I went back, and I had my shift, and I've seen the kid in church before I got there. He kept going to church. So I feel like I was a role model for him. He listened to me, and he started doing way better. He's a misunderstood child. He didn't have a role model. One of my favorite, well, let me rephrase that. One of the people that worked best for me, who was an inmate, he was a really small guy, right? Tiny dude. He happens to be homosexual, and the guy has a really easygoing personality, so a lot of people step over him.
No, we're good.
Well, one day he defended himself. Things went wrong. He got arrested. Best behaving inmate I ever had. The guy, I had him as a worker. He went to trial. He lost. They were offering him 3 years. He had already served 1. So if he would have gotten out within 45%,
Right.
he would have went home pretty soon. Maybe
Like
that's
a couple months. Yeah.
maybe less than that. Process him and boom, should have been back.
Give him time served plus everything else.
They gave him 15 years, man. And I don't get emotional with my work, and I don't get attached to anything.
But at the end of the day, a person's a person, and you're a person.
For me that was it wasn't fair, man.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see people like that when you have other people that have a DUI, and they're drunk drivers.
They're seventh DUI.
And they have the money to pay for the biggest attorney, and then they go out, they kill an old lady, and they walk on probation.
Yeah. I know people have done that. They 6, 7 DUIs. They have the money for an attorney, and they get out the next day. And then they get a hardship license. Oh, I got to go to work. Well, I don't think you've earned that right anymore.
It's just crazy. That's why I say you can't generalize.
Absolutely, never. Like I said earlier, life is reactive, so your plan has to be. You can't.
More than reactive, I will call it dynamic.
Dynamic.
I like that.
Okay, I like that too. Yeah.
It's not static; it's dynamic.
Right.
Because reactive is a little bit more like action reaction. I'd rather it more be like dynamic.
It's yeah.
Life is dynamic. You got to be proactive.
Yeah, I like that.
That flows pretty good.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Let's let's close it on that, boys.
Amen.
Have you guys got anything to plug or anything else?
Yeah.
You wanna
After I was shit. I messed up.
Go ahead.
Right before that, I wanted to give a big shout out to the company I'm working for. I don't want to do that to brag or anything.
No, dude.
It's just that
brag for yourself. That's what this is for.
Yeah, I'm just saying it because it's something I gotta shout out. It's the big feeling of like I think I'm doing like amazing things here, and it really like gives me joy, especially to make people aware of what we're doing on like.
Well, plug the company. Drop the name. What's
Yeah,
the name? What are y'all
it's,
doing? What kind of big stuff are you guys doing?
So cool.
Or anything that you can talk about.
Yeah, so I'm gonna basically go a bit to the website and say some of this cool stuff they have.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's called Cool Fire Solutions, running platforms, enabling intelligent action at the edge of operations. And it says running delivers the right data to the right hands when it's needed in real time. So, and they work with different companies such as Harris, Medaware, Enterprise, and also the government sector. They have things such as, they work with government, military, and security.
And what do you do for them?
Me,
Yeah.
personally? I work in the server side.
At doing what?
I mean, different things. You might filter the information that they use for my input, so that the user might. So that, let's say the user might want to get the data from. I might want to get the information of a couple of suspects. Like a couple of suspects were found in this area within a certain radius of your location. Maybe you can get those suspects and see them, for example, the misdemeanors they made, and have information related to that. And you relate that to different subjects. I mean, I'm just giving I want to give
a general.
Yeah, in my case, I mean, I do like very specific things such as
Right.
like data migration. So I want to like change data from the new data we have. We've added a new feature, so we got to change stuff. And I might also, change the way the data is structured. So we might, let's say that you have you just have your hair, but we want to also add like, now you have a hair color, so you have something different. So I got to change that. But other than that, I wanted to mention more than the company because I really like it. I want to talk about me. I want to talk more about what we do because that's why I like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why I do just small things, just a small like ant and the colony stuff. It's only like 60 people. It's a very
An actual startup.
yeah. I think I have the feeling that we're becoming like company-ish, but still having like start. It's like unordered chaos. Like things work very well, but things are like not ordered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we work with government, military, and security, like helping on the border, and also creating smart cities for the government. Like working with sensory data to have better track of criminals or where they are located in the city, so you can have better communication between people and officers and people around the area. I mean, you want to be as quick reacting as possible. So let's say that say there's a gas leak here. What happens? Like we gotta run and get the phone and call 911, right?
Yeah.
But we want sensors here that would call 911 right away
as soon as the leaks happen.
Yeah. So what happens when they receive the data? When they receive the information, they'll be like, okay,
this motherfucker's got a gas leak.
Yeah. So what they do? What might be? It might be a gas leak, or it might be a terrorist attack. Maybe there's a bomb going on there. Maybe there's an explosion. So they go ahead and send the police officers, and they send the fire department, right? And they may send the how's it called? The hospital, the paramedics, and
first responders.
So and also what we want to do is also create like a difference between having I don't want to exemplify. I don't know if I don't know if it's like on the website, but that's just how I feel it should be. That you could differentiate between gas leak and a terrorist attack, because let's say there's an explosion is different, the smoke, than from a gas leak. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you
That's
want to
super high
differentiate.
technology.
Yeah. So you want to send only the fire department, and maybe you want to have 1-2 police officers like covering the area instead of just sending the whole group and messing up
The
like
whole city.
Right.
Dude, like
right.
how many tax dollars is that? How many tax dollars is that?
And how many other crimes or travesties are being affected
how many
in the
money
meantime because one person was sent to the wrong place when they could be somewhere else?
You can save so much money. You can
and lives.
and also save people's time. Like you can have a police officer like going out there, like that time could be distributed somewhere else with.
That's what we call redirecting the resources.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then you can give more benefits, more time or free time to the police officers if you can like not redirect all the time to fake alarms or fake things going on, or being where they shouldn't be needed. Like sometimes you see construction place where one person's working, everybody's looking.
That's union, baby. Hey, we ain't stopping that. We're pro union in this house, so we get in that.
That's good.
Socialist.
That's cool. That's cool. I think that.
So where can they find all this information at?
And
website.
Well, absolutely. www.coolfiresolutions.com.
Okay.
So it's
www.coolfiresolutions.
yeah, cool as in cool COOL and fire and solutions. Yeah. And they also work with transportation enterprise on and public safety.
Nice.
Yeah. And
Nice.
a lot of stuff. Yeah, check it out.
Well, all right, boys.
Just to wrap up, the only thing I was gonna say is we talked about some touchy things today, and the only thing that I can think about, I mean, if you've listened, through the 2 hours
And
long
fucking
conversation.
59 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate that. I enjoy a long podcast. Like when
that-
when Rogan
yeah.
fucking does 3.5 hours, like I'm like fucking.
We're not gonna talk about the
Thank
world being
God.
flat though.
Yeah, no, fuck no. I'll fight both of you right now.
Anyhow, I highly believe exposure to new things and awareness is a really good way to heal.
Absolutely.
I think we need, as a community, as people, and as individuals, we need to go out there and go deep waters, man. Not only your half guard, you need to
Right.
go deep
Yeah.
waters
Right.
with everything, with life, and really know what we're talking about. Because this podcast can aggravate some people that are not ready to listen to some things, and we're not talking bad about anything. We're just talking, reality with facts, and everything that I quoted in this podcast, we can go back and I can show you the reference. I don't speak on my behalf unless I really know something. I always speak with facts. And in this case, the facts are from PhDs worldwide, man,
Right.
Yeah, and you gotta breathe that good ass prana, baby. It's not from the guy. It's a guy a YouTube channel called Deep Waters, and it's just about good vibes. Like I listened to one of his videos on YouTube, just liberates you of how I know what you mean, like living a life of good vibes. And I'm pretty happy, and I'm pretty cool for you, man. I dig the fact that you're sane in that environment that you told me. It's just so amazing of a human spirit of how you can.
I'm not
endure that.
saying.
Oh, you're not saying that. I'm
He's
saying
crazy
that.
because he does it. He's sane because he has somewhere else to go afterwards.
And also like we are average people. We're just living in this big country, and we have such amazing experiences by ourselves. There's so much into being a person, an individual.
Think about that. We're three people from two different worlds, brought together in the
Three
same.
different worlds, man.
Three different
Yeah,
worlds.
three
Like,
different
we're all
worlds.
different completely.
Brought together by one thing in one place in one town. That's-
Merry Christmas.
I love both
Happy
of
New
you.
Year's.
I fucking love both of you. Thank you guys so
Me
much
too,
for
man.
coming
It
out
was
and
pretty.
doing this,
It
man.
was pretty cool,
We
man.
will definitely have to do this
If
again.
we have other topics,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do fucking part two is for sure gonna
Maybe a
have to
year
come
from
soon.
now, we can figure around. Like I definitely
from
join you
now.
guys maybe before.
A year from
maybe
now,
just-
I'm not that popular. I don't have enough guests, so we're gonna probably have to do some filler
A
episodes.
year from now, you're gonna have to pay me for this.
No, you're gonna have to pay me to be on this. Fuck no. No, man.
It's great,
Awesome, man. I fucking love you guys both.
Yeah,
Thank you
same.
guys both for coming out.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah. Shit, stop. Stop.